As Zifa finished speaking, Ein took a step forward. When he came to Luoya, he gave a military salute to Luoya and said crisply, "General Baigu, please allow me to study by your side, please." With that said, Ein bowed deeply to Roja. At this time, Zifa also said at the right time, "Baigu, Ein's talent is very good. Not only is her fruit ability powerful, she also has her own understanding of the way of swordsmanship. Now she has reached the level of a peak swordsman. I believe soon you will be able to reach the level of a great swordsman for the first time, and it will be no problem to use it to deal with small people." Roja finally understood. Zifa came here to promote his students. However, due to his own reasons, Marine did not invite Whitebeard 2 to become Shichibukai. After all, Whitebeard 2 was already dead in the eyes of Sengoku and others. So this also led Zifa to not leave Marine directly and go out to establish a new Marine, but to retire directly and return to work. Since Teacher Zifa has said so, I have no reason to refuse, but I will say the ugly things first. I cannot accept people who are self-righteous. As long as you are obedient, I will teach you what I know. Half of this sentence was said to Zifa, and the other half was said to Ein. Ein was obviously mentally prepared, and without any hesitation, Ein nodded in agreement. In this case, get ready to leave immediately. We will leave immediately. After saying these words, Roja turned to Zifa and said, "Teacher Zifa, I have a mission. I will leave first." Go. Seeing Roja disappear from his sight, Zifa sighed in his heart and said, "Baigu, if you can become Marine Fleet Admiral, will this sea be calmer?" Thinking of this, Zifa shook his head and turned to leave. Roja and Ein, after getting ready, they arrived on the Admiral-class warship and sailed towards Fishman Island. They need to go to the Sabaody Islands for coating before they can go to Fishman Island. But coating is a very troublesome thing. There are only 3 days in total, and Roja must seize every minute and every second. 100-turn Phantom. On the warship, Roja directly created 100 Phantoms. Under Roja's control, these Phantoms controlled the warship in an orderly manner and sailed towards the Sabaody Islands. Ein was obviously following Roja for the first time. When she saw these 100 Phantoms, her whole body was stunned. "General White Pigeon. In informal situations, just call me Luoya. In fact, I am a very easy to get along with in private." Looking at Roja's gentle smile, I nodded vigorously. Luoya, what do I need to do now?" "You don't have to do anything, just follow me. When I need you to do something, I will tell you. As for what I teach you, how much you can learn depends on your own talent." "Yes," Ein responded. On the sea, a general-class warship rides the wind and waves. Soon, Roja and Ein arrived at the Sabaody Islands. After all, Marina Fando is relatively close to the Sabaody Islands. This is Roja's first time coming to the Sabaody Islands. It is said that there are many interesting things in the Sabaody Islands. Luoya decided to wait until one day when he had time, and he must come over and have a good time. "Look over there! Wow, that woman is so pretty! This is absolutely beautiful. Idiot, I'm not telling you to look at that woman, but the man next to that woman. What's so good about a man? Wait a minute, that's General Baigu. It's Marine's White Pigeon General. Why is General Baigu here?" Hiding his identity, the pirates on the Sabaody Islands were frightened when they saw the presence of the White Pigeon. They all subconsciously escaped from Baiji's sight. They are very familiar with the famous name of Beige. Especially recently, the news that the Whitebeard 2 was killed was missed, under Marine's control. Let more people know how powerful Marine's power is at this time. It was saved, but Akainu's failure had a bad impact on Marine. While walking on the Sabaody Islands, the corner of Roja's mouth twitched. "Ein, do I look scary? You won't run away when you see me." "You know, who can survive in the Sabaody Islands without any strength. You shouldn't be scared away by him." Ein looked at Roja. His face was as sharp as a knife, and his pretty face was slightly rosy for some reason. "It's not that scary." Ein thought to himself at the same time, he's also very handsome. "Hey, maybe they are jealous of my appearance." After Rojas said this, he added, Ein, you can go shopping as you like, I will go find the coating craftsman. This kind of thing is still. Before Ein could finish speaking, Rojas' figure disappeared from front of Ein. Ein swallowed the second half of the sentence. With a quick flash of his body, Roya came to a bar called Shaky's Rip-Off Bar. After constant inquiring, Shaky, who was smoking in the bar, frowned slightly and looked at Roja, who came in from the outside. He was shocked. White Pigeon! Why is he here? Although Shaky was shocked, she didn't show any clues and just said, Is Rayleigh here? As Roja's words fell, a harsh voice sounded in the bar. That was the sound of the glass falling to the ground and breaking into pieces. The already slightly tense atmosphere became even more solemn at this time. Shaky reacted quickly, smiled coquettishly, and said, Hey, when people get old, they are no longer useful. Although I look young, I am actually 60 years old. By the way, what did you just say? Roya smiled slightly and said again, I want to ask if Rayleigh is here? It's the vice-captain of One Piece, Pluton Rayleigh. Shaky was shocked. Those who are good will not come, and those who come will be unkind. Shaky only felt that Roya's smile was like that insidious lion majesty, dormant there for a long time, waiting for prey to appear. But Shaky is also a genius. At this time, she will never admit that Pluton Rayleigh lives here. That One Piece Vice-Captain Pluton Rayleigh? I have indeed heard of this name, but I have never seen him in person, and I don't even know where he is now. General, have you made a mistake somewhere? Just as Shaky finished saying this, hearty laughter sounded outside the pub. Is this a guest? Welcome. Hear sounds coming from outside. Shaky felt very speechless. Normally I come back so late. It happened to be today, so you came back so early. Was that intentional? Thinking of this, Shaky stopped pretending. He pointed directly at the white-haired old man who had just walked into the tavern and said, He is Pluton Rayleigh, go find him. As he said that, Shaky was minding his own business, took out a lady's cigarette, lit it, and the smoke slowly rose. Roya turned around and looked at Rayleigh. I saw that he had long curly hair and a beard on his chin. His beard and hair were both silver. He wore glasses and had a straight scar on his right eye. It looks tough, but it doesn't feel gloomy at all, but a bit sunny. Rayleigh looked at Roya, who was wearing a robe of justice, and casually placed the tools in his hands on the bar. Rayleigh looked at Roja and said with a smile, General White Pigeon of Marine, what do you want from me, a bad old man? You don't want to take me back, do you? If I were to arrest you, I wouldn't be the only one here today. Besides, no one else knows that Pluton Rayleigh actually works as a coating craftsman in the Sabaody Islands. You don't just want to come over and chat with me, do you? A look of curiosity flashed across the eyes of Rayleigh and Shaky. They also knew the name of General Baiga very well. Naturally, we know that General White Pigeon is one of Marine's top combat forces. But when it comes to fame, it even surpasses the existence of the other two generals. Of course not. To make a long story short, I want you to help me coat it and finish it within a day. Hearing Roya's words, Pluton Rayleigh subconsciously said, Is it that simple? Otherwise, what do you think I came here to do? Roya said to Pluton Rayleigh with a smile on his lips. Pluton Rayleigh looked into Roya's eyes and kept thinking about Roya's true purpose. But after thinking about it, I didn't get the answer. So Rayleigh said again, Aren't you afraid that I will tamper with the coating and let you be buried in the sea? You know, we are in an antagonistic relationship. If that were the case, you wouldn't be called Pluton Rayleigh. After the words fell, Rayleigh's eyes showed an extremely sharp look. Suddenly, the two people laughed loudly. Rayleigh immediately said to Shaky, Shaky, give Baiga a glass of wine too, I'll treat you. You already owe me more than 10,000 berries, how can you pay for the drinks? Isn't this General Beige? You know, if you want to coat it within 1 day, it is very expensive. It's okay, Fleet Admiral will reimburse me for the money. Roja said and sat down next to Rayleigh. It was great chatting with Rayleigh here. Sabaody Islands. Island number 1. Population auction venue. Doflamingo is on the top floor, overlooking the auction below. He frowned, and his body exuded a cold feeling. Have you found the accurate information about the results of the operation? Young master, we didn't find it. This fruit seemed to have evaporated out of thin air, leaving no trace at all, Toripol said next to Doflamingo. Ever since the surgical fruits were snatched away by the mysterious man on Cayenne Island, he had become even more angry. Although the mysterious man's strength continues to shock the world, Doflamingo is still unwilling to give up. As long as that mysterious man does not reveal the power of the surgery, Doflamingo will not give up. As long as he is given a chance, he will take the fruits of the operation into his own hands, even if he pays a heavy price. He will never run away like he did last time. This will be a lifelong shame for him. Even because of this incident, his prestige in the underground world was almost lost. This made Doflamingo hate this mysterious man even more. Continue to investigate for me and find out everything that can be found about the organization this mysterious man belongs to. Okay, young master! Torbo finished speaking and was about to leave. But at this moment, several men rushed in from outside in a panic. Young master, it's not good, it's not good! The slave we just captured was kidnapped by a marine woman. Marine woman? What's going on? Doflamingo, who was furious, heard his men's words, and his anger was suddenly ignited. We had just returned from capturing slaves and had already arrived in Area 1, but one of the bees named Stella actually escaped from the cage and happened to meet a marine. Then all the slaves who had just been captured, they were all detained by her. Trash, since the slave is lost, you don't have to live anymore. Doflamingo bent his fingers and flicked out a thread. The tough silk thread cut through the air, whistling and cutting off the heads of those useless subordinates. The head fell to the ground and blood spread all over the floor. Like a fountain. Have someone clean it up. Let's go see which marine dares to seize my goods. Doflamingo, with a frosty face, took Torbol and walked towards Area 1. Human trafficking is very common in the Sabaody Islands. There is even a population auction house run by Doflamingo. But this does not mean that this is a formal industry. Once discovered by marine, it will still be deducted. However, since Doflamingo became Joker in the underground world, no one dared to touch his goods. If it is not handled well this time, Doflamingo guarantees that this kind of thing will happen more and more in the future. After all, none of those guys in the underground world are easy to get along with. The other side. Ein helped Stella up from the ground. Use the katana at your waist to cut off all their bracelets and anklets. Are you guys okay? It's okay, thank you for saving us. This is what we at Marine should do. I have long heard that illegal behavior is rampant in the Sabaody Islands, but I never expected that they would actually transport slaves in broad daylight and in the clear light of day. I can never condone this kind of behavior. Who can't be forgiven? Doflamingo had already arrived at the scene at this time, and happened to see Ein liberating these slaves. There was even more anger in his heart. His forehead was already covered with veins. The eyes hidden under the orange-red sunglasses looked at Ein in front of him fiercely. Ein saw Doflamingo appear in front of him. His face was stern and he looked heroic. She protected Stella and others behind her, holding a sharp sword, and slashed at Doflamingo. He said with righteousness, "We cannot forgive anyone who commits a crime." Doflamingo looked at Ein in front of him, with unspeakable anger in his heart. At this time, there were more and more people around. Anyone who has lived in the Sabaody Islands for a long time knows the Doflamingo in front of him. The Ein in front of Doflamingo had no reputation at all. He looked like a marine who was taking a leave of absence. In the Sabaody Islands, a few marines who accidentally disappeared would not attract attention at all. This woman is so beautiful, but her brain is not very good. Yeah, you dare to provoke Doflamingo, you really don't want to live or die. You know, Doflamingo is the Joker of the underground world. Doflamingo is involved in not only the underground industries of the Sabaody Islands, but also various industries in the New World. I heard the onlookers whispering around. Ein's expression did not change, and he looked at the person in front of him with a stern expression. I don't care who you are, but since you appear in front of me, I must bring you to justice. Pfu, this is simply the funniest joke I have ever heard. You want to catch me even with your strength? I happen to be in a bad mood right now, so I will ask you to die. Before Doflamingo could finish speaking, a voice suddenly came from the crowd, interrupting Doflamingo's words. Doflamingo, this is the Sabaody Islands. If you dare to attack Marine, you will definitely be punished. A man wearing pink floral clothes walked out of the crowd. When Ein saw this person, he was stunned and subconsciously said, Bins, why are you here? Bins protected Ein behind him and said, I was assigned here by Teacher Zifa, and I happen to be on duty today. After saying that, Bins stared at Doflamingo closely. The veins on Doflamingo's forehead popped out. I saw hatred in your eyes. I guess your parents were killed by me too. After hearing Doflamingo's words, Bins forced himself to calm down and said, 10 years ago, on my birthday, you brought your family members to our island. Except for me, everyone on the island, even my parents, died tragically in your hands. Doflamingo sneered. Fu, this is not the first time this has happened, so since they are all dead, you should go down and be buried with them. After the words fell, Doflamingo kicked his feet. In the blink of an eye, he rushed towards Bins. Before Bins could react, he only felt a pain in his abdomen, as if his internal organs had been displaced, which made him take a breath of air. He didn't expect that Doflamingo would actually dare to take action. You must hate me very much. If it weren't for your lack of strength, you would have pounced on me. Doflamingo's fingers were slightly bent, and a white but extremely tough silk thread appeared between his fingers. Doflamingo laughed wildly. On this sea, the weak eat the strong. You are weak and I am strong, so you are destined to be killed by me. As he spoke, Doflamingo mercilessly used the silk thread in his hand to pull down Bins. At this critical moment, Ein sent out a slashing attack towards Doflamingo. It's just a small thing. Are you trash like you, Marine? Bounce the thread. I saw Doflamingo, raising his fingers and retracting his other fingers, and the thin lines created from his fingers were fired at high speed like a gun. It was this thread that looked like it could break at the first touch, whizzing and shattering in the air. Ein's slash. Slashing and breaking, Doflamingo's bounce line continues to gain momentum. Ein's pupils shrank suddenly. She wanted to use shave to escape, but there were many civilians behind her. Once she retreats, those civilians will be injured, so she cannot retreat. Subconsciously, Ein closed his eyes. But the imagined pain did not appear. I heard a deafening sound erupting all around me. Ein opened his eyes and looked in front of him. I saw Roya wearing a cloak of justice, with armed domineering energy attached to his hands, easily crushing Doflamingo's bullet line. The sudden appearance of the white dove shocked everyone. Except for the people who just saw Ein and Roja together. The rest of the people didn't even know that Roja's current adjutant was Ein. Roja looked at Doflamingo not far away with a gentle smile on his lips. Compared with Doflamingo, this smile is simply a cold one and a hot one, completely at two extremes. First meeting, Doflamingo, Roja said calmly to Doflamingo. Although Roja's tone was very calm, the people around him obviously heard the dissatisfaction in Roja's tone. What about Doflamingo? Fu, beige, I didn't expect that I would meet you here. Doflamingo feels that it is better to take a step back. After all, he could feel the power of the white pigeon in front of him just from its faint aura. This makes Doflamingo not dare to be too arrogant. By G, I only want my slave. If you give the slave to me, I can pretend that nothing happened today. But for Doflamingo's intentional concession, Roja did not intend to just let him go. You said you just pretended that nothing happened, just pretended that nothing happened? The corners of Luoya's eyes were crooked, and the whole person looked more kind. Ein felt warm in his heart. She could see that Roja was obviously trying to stand up for herself. What do you mean by this? Doflamingo's whole body tensed up. He really didn't expect that he would meet Baiga here. Those guys in the intelligence department will definitely kill them all when he returns. They are a bunch of useless guys. Even something as important as the general's landing on the island was not told to him. It doesn't mean anything. I just heard you say, isn't this world a place where the weak eat the strong? You are weak and I am strong, so you are destined to be killed by me. This sentence is very familiar to Doflamingo. Isn't that what he said just now? But what he didn't expect was that Roja would actually use his words to tell him. This suddenly touched Doflamingo's anger. Sabaody Islands, there is not a trace of breeze at this time. The atmosphere is getting hotter and hotter. Cold sweat broke out on many people's foreheads. Why do I have a bad feeling? Me too, why don't we stay away from each other? Yes, that makes sense. The people around them stepped back and paid attention to Roja and Doflamingo. I wonder if the two of them will fight like this. Just at this time. Just then, Doflamingo moved. Because he has already felt the real murderous intention in Roya. This murderous intention was first felt. Even as the underground emperor, he shuddered subconsciously. So with this in mind, Doflamingo decided to strike first. Super hit whip! Doflamingo first stretched his palm back, and dozens of almost transparent thin threads were sprayed out from his palm, and then he entangled these threads together. A thick line like hair was formed. Then let this line column stretch as far back as possible, and then stretch it back to hit Roja in front. The action looks cumbersome. But Doflamingo has developed to a certain level regarding line fruits. These actions were completed almost in the blink of an eye. I saw Doflamingo's super whip mixed with the power of breaking through the air, attacking Roja. The strong cutting ability cuts the air at this time, making a whistling sound. Everything happened so fast. People around him didn't even realize what Doflamingo had done. They saw that the thread column had arrived in front of Roja. Shaking his head slightly, Roja's hands were filled with armed domineering energy without hesitation. As soon as the peak of armed domineering was revealed, Doflamingo's heart suddenly trembled. His pupils shrank suddenly. Bang! As if catching a sword with his bare hands, Roja blocked Doflamingo's super whip with ease. This is not over yet. A light flashed in Roja's eyes. One of the 6 peak postures shave. Activate. Both feet quickly hit the ground, leading Roja directly to Doflamingo. The speed was so fast that Doflamingo didn't even react. I saw Luoya's dark palm, quickly enlarging in Doflamingo's field of vision. Grabbing Doflamingo's face, he lifted his entire body up. Then it hit the ground hard. Boom, boom, boom! Already far away from their melon-eating masses. I saw Roja grabbing Doflamingo's head and slamming it on the ground. Every heavy blow will leave a huge deep hole. The ground has been completely damaged. Then he hit the ground mercilessly with Doflamingo's head, and Roja smiled and said, You won't forget your identity as a pirate, right? As a marine general, I won't catch you. I'm embarrassed myself. After a few more hits, Doflamingo endured the violent dizziness and stretched out his arms hard, holding Roja tightly. Roja took a look at Doflamingo. The next second, Doflamingo suddenly released his Conqueror's domineering energy. Conqueror's domineering power suddenly swept the entire place with Doflamingo as the center. The terrifying pressure directly pressed on everyone's hearts. They felt as if they were hallucinating. Countless ferocious beasts surrounded them, leaving them unable to resist this will. They fell to the ground one after another, piled on top of each other. Facing Doflamingo's Conqueror's haki, Roja didn't do much. He just released a few of his own spiritual pressure that was very similar to Conqueror's haki, protecting Ayn behind him. Ayn looked at the people around him and fainted under this momentum. He was also very shocked. She could feel Roya's care for her. Otherwise, if she thought about it now, she would be lying on the ground in a very embarrassed state. Oh, are you angry? Your momentum is pretty good, but that's all. I'll show you what the real Conqueror's domineering spirit is. As Roya's words fell, Roja slowly closed his eyes, and then stared. In an instant, the huge spiritual pressure like Conqueror's domineering force was completely pressed on Doflamingo's body. Roja's spiritual pressure even caused the surrounding space to become slightly distorted. The Sabeti Islands, which were originally a bit dry, dull, and hot, also ushered in a large cloud at this time. The whole sky seemed to have split open out of thin air, which made people feel horrified. Doflamingo stared at the sky blankly, feeling the aura on Roja's body. Subconsciously said, "How is this possible? How is this possible? This is absolutely impossible. Why do you, this guy, have the unique conqueror's domineering power? And, moreover, you are so powerful." Doflamingo thought of the mysterious man he met on Cayenne Island. At that time, he also felt such a huge and terrifying spiritual pressure, which belonged to the very offensive conqueror's haki. Regarding the practice of conqueror's domineering, in Doflamingo's opinion, it has definitely reached a certain level. However, Doflamingo did not notice the heat of fire in Roja's conqueror's aura. Otherwise, Doflamingo would even think that Roja was actually the mysterious man on Cayenne Island. However, Roja did not give Doflamingo a chance to think more. The corner of Roja's mouth smiled even more. Using his legs, Roja grabbed Doflamingo's head in his hands and rushed out like a cannonball. "Doflamingo, have you ever heard of Earth Drop?" Before Doflamingo could react, he knew what was going on. He only felt a strong force coming from him. He fell towards the ground at a faster speed than when he came. Boom! This sound can not only be heard by people in the first area, but also by people in the entire Sabeti Islands. I saw Doflamingo's head being inserted directly into the ground. The ground began to crack inch by inch, and the cracks continued to grow larger. There is constant dust and fine sand left in it. As the strength disappeared, Doflamingo's body fell down softly. Slowly coming down from the sky, Roja came to Ian's side and said softly, "Report the situation here to Fleet Admiral and ask him to send people to arrest people and imprison Doflamingo in the great prison under the sea. Hit it!" After Warring States got the news about Ian, he felt bad. He smiled bitterly and seemed to be very troubled. Because Sengoku knew the true identity of Doflamingo. This guy was a celestial dragon before. Even if his father left on his own initiative, the bloodline of Doflamingo cannot be erased. But fortunately, Roja didn't know the news. It just so happens that he who doesn't know is not guilty. However, what Warring States didn't know was that all of this was under Roja's control. Otherwise, Roja would not have directly pinched Doflamingo's mouth at the first moment of the battle, not giving him a chance to speak. Roja didn't care at all about how to deal with Doflamingo's affairs after the Warring States period. Anyway, Doflamingo will definitely have to pay a lot of money to figure it out. At this time, Roja's matter was gradually fermenting. Everyone's impression of Roja is that he is extremely protective of his shortcomings, very powerful, and cannot be messed with. In particular, Pluton, Rayleigh, and Shaki have a clearer understanding of Bai's strength. Rayleigh is very sensitive to capturing the breath. Although Roja focused his spiritual pressure on Doflamingo, Rayleigh still noticed the heart-stopping conqueror's domineering aura. General White Pigeon is really an amazing talent. At the same age, even Roger can't reach his current level. Thinking of this, Rayleigh shook his head. Without thinking any more, he started his own coding project. After all, he is just a very ordinary coding craftsman now, and he also promised to complete the coding within 1 day. The time is really tight. Roja woke up these slaves one by one, took them to the base of the Sabeti Islands, and began to investigate one by one. Planned to send them all back to their hometown. These slaves began to register one by one, and soon it was Stella's turn. Ian looked at the woman with beautiful blonde hair in front of him, and was very impressed. It was precisely because she escaped from those cages covered with cloth. Ian only discovered these slaves, otherwise he would not have saved them. Ian couldn't even imagine what the future life waiting for them would be like. "Stella, where is your hometown?" Ian held a pen in his hand and said concernedly to Stella. Stella's expression darkened, tears welled up in her eyes, and she slowly shook her head. "I have no hometown. I have been a slave since I was born." "From the moment you are born, you are a slave." In other words, there is a great possibility that Stella's parents were also slaves. Ayn felt a little sorry for Stella. She turned to face Roya, who was dozing off to the side, and asked, "Lord Roja, Stella." Before Ayn could finish what he said, Roja stood up from his seat, came to Stella's side, smiled lightly at Stella. "Is that Stella? If you can, we are still short of a chef on the ship, and we would like to invite you to be our chef. Would you like to?" Stella didn't hesitate when she heard Roya's invitation. He nodded excitedly and said, "Yes, very willing." After getting Stella's answer, Roja smiled and said, "Then please give me more advice in the future. Please give me some advice, beige. Like Ayn, just call me Roja." Stella's pretty face turned red when she heard Roja's words. He nodded subconsciously and said, "Yes." Time passed quickly, and I slept for a day at the marine base in the Sabaody Islands. Roja took Ayn and Stella to the rip-off bar. Ayn and Stella didn't know Rayleigh, they only thought he was an ordinary coding craftsman. "This is your Rayleigh, thank you for your hard work. Please help me complete the coding project within 1 day." Admiral-class warships are very large, not small at all. To say it is a project is not an exaggeration at all. Rayleigh laughed out loud when she heard Luoya call her an old man. "Ha ha ha ha, it's my honor to be able to code the general. Master Luoya, this old man feels completely different from other old men. In terms of mental aspect, he is far ahead of his peers." Hearing Ayn's words, Stella on the side nodded seriously. In response, Roya complained in his heart, "Of course, this is Pluton Rayleigh. Even his current strength cannot be underestimated." Everyone boarded the warship, and Stella looked at such a large warship and couldn't help showing a surprised look. She and Ayn are almost the same age, so they need to get along better. She subconsciously asked Ayn, "Ayn, do you usually drive the warship alone? This is too awesome." Ayn shook his head and said, "No, Master Roja's fruit ability is not only weird, but also very practical." As if to verify Ayn's words, Roja lightly snapped his fingers. I saw 100 phantoms that looked exactly like Roja appearing on the general-class warship. Stella showed an extremely shocked expression when she saw this scene in front of her. Looking at Stella's expression, Ayn also roughly thought of what his original expression was. "Okay everyone, let's set off and try to reach Fishman Island within 2 days. At this time, the system prompt time has changed from 3 days to 2 days. Under the control of these 100 phantoms, the warship began to gradually sink into the sea. The seawater gradually enveloped the warship. The huge warship began to dive slowly. Darkness gradually engulfed them. Stella and Ayn are both girls. They all have some dissatisfaction with the darkness. Therefore, Roja directly turned on all the lights on the warship. The light can illuminate a certain distance. What catches everyone's eyes is the increasingly colorful and gorgeous world. Wow, what kind of fish is that? Looks so kawaii. Yes, I didn't expect it to be so interesting under the sea water. It looks really mysterious. Roja stood on the deck and looked at the surrounding ocean through the coating. The smile on his lips never stopped. This was also his first time going underwater. Regarding the unique species in the ocean and the existence of Poseidons, Roja instantly thought of Shirahoshi. If there is a chance, he would like to visit Shirahoshi and see if he can have a good relationship with Shirahoshi. You must know that in this world full of seas, Poseidon's existence is really invincible. Time passes minute by second. Everyone gradually calmed down from the excitement at the beginning. At this time, Stella also came to the kitchen of the warship. Stella is very confident in her cooking skills, because her talent in this area is really amazing. No matter what cuisine it is, you can draw inferences from one instance and reach its peak at the same time. In Luoya's words, it was a treasure found. Soon, a delicious meal with delicious flavor and color appeared in everyone's sight. But I don't know if it was because of the aroma of the dishes, but a dark phantom flashed in the distant ocean, swimming quickly towards Roya's warship. In the blink of an eye, I arrived in front of the warship. The black shadow moved quickly between gulps and puffs. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of Roja and others. Under the illumination of the warship's lights, they finally saw what kind of monster the black shadow in front of them was. It was a large squid of the Poseidon type that could reach more than 5,500 meters in length according to visual inspection. The squid arm alone is more than 1,000 meters long. Stella had never seen this scene before her. His heart trembled suddenly, and he subconsciously slumped to the ground, his face pale. Not only Stella, but also Ayn herself was very shocked. You must know that this is in the deep sea. The warship is covered with coating to isolate the sea water from the outside. But once the coating is broken and a large amount of seawater pours in, the pressure in the deep sea alone is not something they can resist. You know, in the eyes of Ayn and Stella, Roja is a person with abilities, and once he comes into contact with a large amount of seawater, he will definitely become powerless. Master Roja, what should we do? This squid is obviously coming for us. At this time, the Poseidon, a squid with a body length of terrifying 5,500 meters, was constantly observing the warship. Determine the danger to him from the warship, if it is judged that the warship is not dangerous. Don't think too much, this squid Poseidon will definitely use its strong tentacles with a diameter of tens of meters to wrap the coating, squeeze through, and then devour the warship. Seeing the expressions of Ayn and Stella, Roja was not afraid at all. Controlling the phantom, he dragged the table out of the room and placed it on the deck. Then he put the delicacies prepared by Stella on the table. He said to everyone in a relaxed and comfortable manner, "Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and eat. It would be a pity if such a delicious dish gets cold." But... Stella pointed to the squid outside, her voice trembling. Ayn even said aloud, "Lord Roja, what should we do if this guy launches an attack?" Looking at the worried two people in front of him, Roja waved his hands casually, as if he didn't care at all, and said, "It's okay, just make peace with it as it comes. Ayn, just treat it as this is for yourself, a kind of training of the state of mind is enough." Hearing Roja's words, Ayn nodded, took a deep breath, and said softly, "Well, I understand." Then, he moved the chair to the side of the table. Stella saw Ayn and did the same, so she could only bite the bullet and sit next to him. It's just that Stella's mind is no longer on the food, but all on the squid. She was afraid of the squid, so she rushed forward without saying a word and punctured the coating. Once the coating is punctured, they are really finished. At this time, 3 different feelings filled the 3 people. Roya's senseless indifference, Ayn's enforced calm, Stella's panic and fear. It permeated the warships. Roja tasted the dishes made by Stella, nodded with satisfaction, gave Stella a thumbs up, and said, "Stella, what you cooked is so delicious." Stella's face was very pale. She looked at Roja, forced the corner of her mouth, and said, "Is it delicious? Master, Stella will be responsible in the future, please eat more." Because Stella was too nervous, what she said was not smooth. As for the title of Master, Roja originally refused. But Stella said that it was Roya and Ayn who saved her. Especially Roya. They are also equivalent to her own recreated parents. In order to show her respect, Stella repeatedly insisted on calling Roja Master. In this regard, Roja had nothing to say. After all, this is Stella's own insistence. Roja looked at Stella and couldn't help but think of a guy who called himself the Golden Emperor. However, Stella has not met Tesoro now, that is, the Golden Emperor in the future, and it is very likely that he will not appear again. Then, when Doflamingo releases the golden fruit, he can use another identity to snatch the golden fruit. Thinking of this, the corners of Roja's mouth raised slightly. Ayn looked at Roja with a nonchalant look, and felt very admired in his heart. Although Roja now did not give him any other teachings in other aspects. But just speaking of this state of mind, it is beyond the reach of Ayn. Ayn tried hard to control his state of mind and tasted the delicious food made by Stella. However, her constantly trembling hands showed that her heart was actually not peaceful. "Ayn, do you think it suits your taste?" Roja chuckled at Ayn. "Ah? Well, it's delicious. The delicacies made by Stella are the most delicious food I have ever eaten." Ain's state of mind naturally cannot improve so much in a short period of time. She subconsciously looked to the side and saw only the figure of the squid, rushing towards the warship. Ain's pupils shrank suddenly. At the same time, Stella, who saw the scene in front of her, could no longer control her body and screamed subconsciously. Stella's screams echoed throughout the warship. Ain's heart sank even more. Deep sea. Within the coating. Limited by various factors. In Ain's view, either she nor Roja could use their full strength. There is a great possibility that they were crushed to death by the water in the deep sea. Or maybe it was swallowed into the body by the giant Poseidon-like squid in front of him, and became its food. But Ain didn't know that Roja, a white pigeon general, was not Roja's true strength. His true strength has never been fully used. Because so far, no one has been able to do this. This is true even for the Poseidon-like squid in front of me. But Ain and Stella didn't know the confidence in Roja's heart. In their opinion, whether it is Roja's fruit ability, the 6 marine styles, or the strongest armed color hockey. In this deep sea, there is no way to defeat the Poseidon squid in front of you. Despair enveloped them. Perhaps it is precisely because of this that the mental states of Ain and Stella achieved a breakthrough at this time. Ain looked at Roja and said softly, "Lord Roja, being able to follow you is the most correct choice in my life. If I am given another chance, I will still make this choice resolutely." At this time, Stella was no longer afraid. "Master, thank you for saving me from a dark life. In my eyes, Master, you are the greatest light and everything to me. If there is an afterlife, I want to serve you forever." Luoya looked at them with a strange expression. "Is it such an exaggeration? Isn't it just a Poseidon-like squid that is about 5,500 meters long?" Luoya's words were full of relaxation and comfort. It fell on the ears of the two of them, making them look stunned. Ain looked at Roja and said, "Lord Roja." Ain hesitated to speak. "You must know that this is the deep sea, if you want to launch a large-scale attack. Then the coating will definitely break and they will die. But if it is a small attack, it will be like scratching an itch for the 5,500-meter-long Poseidon in front of you. The result is to be killed by it. No matter what you do, you will die." At this moment, bursts of explosions reached the warship. These explosions are caused by the squid, Poseidon, swimming rapidly towards the warship. The huge body quickly squeezed out a channel in the ocean, stirring up a large amount of water, resulting in the current scene. In other words, this Poseidon class has arrived in front of the warship. Roja turned around and saw the Poseidon-type squid stretching out its huge tentacles and attacking the warship. Stella on the side could not be any whiter. "Don't worry, nothing will happen. Just leave it to me." Roja slowly got up from his seat. "When I walked to the edge of the boat, I looked calm and didn't feel panic at all." Ain and Stella were already worried. When they were curious about how Roja would do it, they were also worried about whether Roja would damage the coating. At this time, the atmosphere was very depressing. The giant squid, Poseidon, had already stretched out its tentacles and came to the front of the warship. It was about to touch the coating when it saw its tentacles. Roja slowly closed his eyes, then opened them suddenly. Terrifying spiritual pressure, like Conqueror's domineering force, suddenly surged out of Roja's body. It is majestic and majestic, as heavy as Mount Tai. Buzz. Moment. This Conqueror's domineering power, centered on Roja, enveloped the squid Poseidon in an instant. Conqueror's hockey, which covered a range of 6,000 meters, completely exploded under Roja's release. Ain and Stella, because of Roja's special care. "So I wasn't knocked unconscious, but even so. They can also feel the hell-like aura from Roja's body." Conqueror's domineering spirit became reality at this time. The terrifying pressure caused the 5,500-meter-long Poseidon squid-like tentacles in front of him to shrink back. But it's not over yet. Under Roja's full control, his cloak of justice automatically moved without wind. Puff puff! Under the illumination of the warship's lights, Ain and Stella only saw that the Poseidon squid's body was shattered by the shock. Conqueror's domineering power, which had swept all directions before, was now controlled by Roya, completely pressing on it. The Poseidon squid is constantly struggling, curling up, and stirring the sea water, causing waves of fluctuations even in the deep sea. But its tentacles could never reach Roja, the warship at its feet. One can imagine how terrifying this conqueror's dominance is. Too strong. Is this the master's power? Only Lord Roja can achieve this level of conqueror's domineering power. The two women's eyes were shining with stars, and they looked at Roja's back with admiration. It seems that he wants to imprint Roja's figure completely in his mind. Ryatsu and Conqueror's haki are very similar. But there is a difference. For example, that far exceeds Conqueror's aggressiveness. Now that you're here, don't leave! After all, this world is dominated by the weak and the strong. As soon as he finished speaking, Roja completely exploded with his spiritual pressure, shattering the 5,500-meter-long Poseidon-like squid in front of him into dozens of pieces. This is the White Dove. The most powerful general to date, General White Dove, who is feared by countless pirates. Ayn and Stella thought in their hearts at the same time. Slowly put away the spiritual pressure. Roja's expression remained unchanged, and from the outside, it looked like he had done a small thing. Under the gaze of the two women, Roja walked to his seat and continued to taste the food in front of him. At the same time, he said to Ayn and Stella, "This is a late-stage derivative of Conqueror's haki. You can train your mind more, and maybe you can awaken Conqueror's haki. Don't think Conqueror's domineering, it is a very rare thing. The more rare a person feels that Conqueror's haki is, the less likely it is for someone to awaken Conqueror's haki. Do you understand?" After hearing what Roja said, Ayn immediately realized that this was Roja's teaching to them. Ayn quickly stood up from his seat, saluted Roja with a military salute, and said, "I understand, Lord Roja." At the same time, Ayn secretly thought in his heart, it turns out that Lord Roja just asked them to exercise their mental state because he wanted them to awaken Conqueror's domineering power. Seeing Ayn looking so serious, Roja was also a little bit dumbfounded. "Okay, now that the crisis is over, let's continue to taste the delicious food made by Stella." "Aha!" Ayn and Stella both nodded at the same time. Now that the crisis has been resolved, they only feel that their appetites are instantly widened. In the coming time, Roya controlled his phantom, drove the warship, safely crossed the undercurrent in the deep sea, and then came to the Fishman Island. At this time, in the Dragon King's palace on Fishman Island, under the order of King Neptune, various ministers followed Neptune to the port of Fishman Island. Fishman Island also has a port. After all, they all need to be managed uniformly. There was a slight smile on Roja's lips. He obviously did not expect that Neptune would actually come out to meet him in person. Ayn and Stella, when they were about to enter the Fishman Island, could not suppress their little girl nature and looked at everything around them excitedly. Look! Fishman Island is actually surrounded by a huge bubble. There are actually clouds here. There may even be air. This is incredible. Is this the 10,000-meter deep Fishman Island under the Holy Land Marie Joa?" While the two women were amazed, Roya controlled the warship and had arrived at the Fishman Island. The electronic sound of the system suddenly appeared in Roya's mind. "Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully signing in. You will get Peak Wisdom, Peak Domineering. Peak Wisdom, Domination, allows the host to predict the enemy's next attack route, and at the same time, it can also predict the next 5 minutes. And it can also compete with all things. Communicate." When Luoya heard the system's words, he was slightly stunned. Although Roja has been able to predict that when the site reaches its peak, it will be very powerful. But what Roja didn't expect was that in terms of functionality. The domineering power of peak knowledge and knowledge is really much more domineering than the domineering power of peak armed power. In particular, the ability to communicate with all things was something he did not expect. "I never thought that after reaching the peak of seeing and hearing, I would be able to communicate with all living things." Roja sighed in his heart. But at this moment, the system rarely sounded in Roja's mind again. "Ding! Remind host, the ability to communicate with all things is not something that anyone can awaken when they reach the peak of knowledge and color. After getting the system's answer, Roja's smile became even brighter. If this is the case, when he meets someone with peak knowledge and domineering power in the future, he will be able to have one more powerful ability than others, which will give him an even greater advantage. Thinking of this, Roja suddenly realized that he was overthinking it. After all, how many people can reach the peak of knowledge and color? At this time, the warship at Roja's feet had already arrived in front of King Neptune. Roya was very peaceful. He came to Neptune and said to Neptune, "Excuse me, Your Majesty the King. I am honored to do so." As Roja's words fell, both Ian and Stella saluted King Neptune. King Neptune waved his hand and said, "No need to be polite. I have long heard that General White Pigeon is extremely handsome and has a transcendent temperament. Now that I see him, he is indeed like this. It's just rumors from the outside that I'm just an ordinary person with slightly stronger strength." Hearing Roja's words, a gleam flashed in Neptune's eyes. He thought to himself, Baigu is not only humble, but also extremely powerful, either because of his personality or because the city is extremely deep. However, Neptune saw Roya's expression and felt that Roya should belong to the former. After all, this was the first time Neptune had seen such a gentle smile on the face of someone above Marine Lieutenant General. "General Beige, when I heard that you were coming to Fishman Island, I ordered people to prepare a banquet. I wonder if General Beige would like to participate?" The king's personal invitation was a great honor in the eyes of other fishmen. Naturally, Roja would not do anything bad to those who respected him. He just nodded slightly and said to Neptune, "Excuse me." After getting Roja's affirmation, everyone walked towards the Dragon King's palace on Fishman Island. Roja looked around here and couldn't find the existence of Hai Xiajin Bei. Even Fisher Tiger's figure was not found. Roja was a little confused about this. After a while, used the phone bug to contact Fisher Tiger. "I hope he is on Fishman Island. In this case, things will be much easier to handle." Unknowingly, under the leadership of Neptune, Luoya and others soon arrived on Fishman Island, in front of the magnificent Dragon King's palace. Only to hear the system's electronic sounds sounded in Roya's mind again. "Ding! Congratulations to host for checking into the Dragon Palace and getting a vicious medicine with no side effects. After use, the power is doubled and lasts for 5 minutes, but without any side effects. After checking into the Dragon King's palace, you can hear the electronic sound of the system." Roja was slightly speechless. He did not expect that after checking into the Dragon King's palace, he would receive such a unique reward. Although it has no side effects, it still looks a bit weird, but it can be used as a trump card, which is not bad. King Neptune keenly captured the changes in Roya's expression. "General Baigu, what's wrong? Are you dissatisfied with my arrangements?" Hearing what King Neptune said, Roja shook his head and said, "King Neptune, you are joking. I was just shocked by the magnificence of the Dragon Palace. Isn't it just business talk? Roya will too." Hearing Roja's words, King Neptune laughed heartily. "Ha ha 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 ha! It's really an honor to be able to let General Beige express such praise. King, you are serious. Just call me Roja. White Dove is just a title. If we really want to say that the title of terror belongs to the mysterious man of Roja. If Neptune knew that Roya was not only the marine general Baigu, but also the mysterious man famous on the sea, he didn't know what his expression would be. Will he be received so grandly? The 3 of Luoya were treated as honored guests in the Dragon King's palace. Sitting under Neptune, Roja watched the delicacies belonging to Fishman Island being served one after another. Roya is also looking forward to the taste of these foods, especially the desserts from Fishman Island. You know, this is the food that even Big Mom covets. Roya, I wonder if the Sengoku Fleet Admiral sent you to Fishman Island for some reason? Recently, Marine plans to release the Shichibukai Plan, inviting pirates from all over the world to join and enjoy privileges. Sengoku Fleet Admiral thought about the issue of Fishman Island and its people, so he invited me to invite Jinbei, the sea hero, to join Shichibukai. promote the peaceful development of both parties. Hearing Roha's words, Neptune nodded slightly. He was thinking about what benefit Roha's words, or this Shichibukai plan, would have for them. At this time, Roha handed Neptune a manuscript with Sengoku's autograph on it. After reading this manuscript, Neptune only felt that this Shichibukai plan was a very good plan for them. But in terms of strength, isn't Fisher Tiger even more powerful? Hearing Neptune's answer, the corner of Roha's mouth twitched. He originally thought that Neptune knew the reason why Fisher Tiger was not used in the Warring States period. But judging from the current situation, he was overthinking it. Roha looked at Neptune helplessly and said, "Your Majesty, you are really joking. You also know that Fisher Tiger made a big fuss in the Holy Land Mariajoya before. For such it exists, and Marine can't even get rid of it in time. It can only be said that in the New World, in such a chaotic situation, Sengoku Fleet Admiral's helpless move, King, if you can seize this opportunity, not only will Fisher Tiger's matter be alleviated, but also the fish will be promoted. Isn't the development of people and human beings very good? Therefore, the Warring States Fleet Admiral specially sent me here." After hearing Roha's words, Neptune only felt that this was indeed the case. He didn't expect that. He didn't even think thoroughly about Roha. "My lord, do you know where Jinbei is now?" "I don't know where they are. I will send people to find them now." Hearing Neptune's words, Roha frowned slightly. "Excuse me, Your Majesty the King." After saying that, Roha waited patiently here. And at this time the banquet has completely begun. Dozens of mermaids danced in front of them, their sleeves swaying, which was particularly moving. The other side. Outside the Dragon King's palace, a remote place about 10,000 meters away. Different from the prosperity near the Dragon King's palace, the seaweed here is overgrown and looks extremely chaotic. From the looks of it, no Murlocs have set foot here for at least 10 years. And it was in such a deserted place that 2 Murlocs with dark red and blue skins came to their presence. He received news that a human who came to Fishman Island accidentally entered here by mistake and was injured here. Out of a good impression of human beings, they came here and planned to take a look. I will plan to find Roha later. But what Fisher Tiger and Jinbei didn't expect was, what's waiting for them here is not injured humans, but Hody Jones. Fisher Tiger and Jinbei both knew Hody Jones before them. They obviously also knew that they had been deceived by Hody Jones. Fisher Tiger looked at the black-haired Hody Jones in front of him, wearing a flat hat with a trident pattern on his head, a wolfskin scarf around his neck, and a large tattoo on his left arm, and said angrily, "Hody Jones, what do you mean?" Hody Jones looked at Fisher Tiger and Jinbei in front of him and sneered. "Jai ha ha ha, what do you mean? Of course I came to stop you." "Stop us? Stop what?" Fisher Tiger couldn't understand what Hody Jones meant at all. Hody Jones squinted at the 2 fishmen in front of him and said, "Captain Fisher Tiger, Brother Jinbei, you are the fishmen we admire most now, with powerful strength and extraordinary courage, especially Captain Fisher Tiger, who climbed up to the Holy Land Mariajoya with his bare hands and rescued countless of our compatriots. Even I admire you very much. But—" Speaking of this, Hody Jones's expression changed. He did not hide his murderous aura. "But because of this, why do you plan to find the white pigeon? I heard that you plan to find the white pigeon and then bring the relationship between fish and humans closer, is that right?" Fisher Tiger did not know the true identity of General Baiga at this time. I don't know that Roya was the mysterious man who saved Fisher Tiger from the fire and water. But even so, Fisher Tiger and Jinbei still wanted to meet Baiga and discuss with Baiga the relationship between the 2 races. If they can win over the General Baiga, then they can gain a little more status in the world government. But this idea was discovered by Hody Jones in front of him. As a fishman supremacist, he will never allow this kind of thing to happen. So after thinking about this, Hody Jones did not hesitate and took advantage of the kindness of Fisher Tiger and Jinbei, 2 fishmen, to invite them here. The purpose is to realize his ambition. Hody Jones has shown his madness. "Fisher Tiger, Jinbei, I respect you, but you have really disappointed me, so I decided to replace you and lead the fishmen to attack the mainland, telling them that only the fishmen are truly superior species. Hear Hody Jones' crazy words. Fisher Tiger and Jinbei looked at each other. Fisher Tiger took a step forward and said, Hody Jones, I've seen this idea of yours a lot, but it's just a misguided approach. Wrong way? Jaya ha 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 ha, I think you are the wrong way. It's a complete joke to coexist peacefully with humans. Humans should be slaves of us fishmen. Forget it, talking more is useless, fight! I will use my own. Our strength proves that your idea is completely wrong. Hearing Hody Jones's increasingly fierce words, Fisher Tiger no longer hesitated, took a step forward, assumed a defensive posture, and said confidently, Hody Jones, you were just King Neptune before. He is just a soldier beside me, no match for me at all. At this time, Jinbei reminded from the side, Captain Fisher Tiger, be careful of his dirty tricks. Hearing the conversation between Fisher Tiger and Jinbei, Hody Jones sneered. A dirty trick? No, I will defeat you openly. As Hody Jones said this, he took out an ES poison from his arms. When the two fishmen Fisher Tiger and Jinbei saw Hody Jones holding something in their hands, both eyes suddenly shrank. They obviously recognized what this was. This is ES poison? How did you get it? Of course I got it from the jade box in the Dragon King's palace. Do you believe that this jade box that has been treasured for many years in the Dragon King's palace is actually this kind of ES poison? ES drug is Energisteroid energy steroid. After taking this kind of medicine, you can greatly improve your strength, but the side effect is to shorten your life. You can only eat one pill at most. But Hody Jones didn't take it to heart at all. Without hesitation, Hody Jones directly swallowed more than 10 pills of ES poison in his hand into his body. Buzz! The blood flow in Hody Jones' body suddenly accelerated. The body muscles swelled more than once. The veins on it popped out, completely pushing up the clothes. Even the aura on his body has become much more fierce. In this quiet and deserted place, Fisher Tiger and Jinbei can even hear the rapidly beating heart of Hody Jones. Hody Jones, are you trying to kill yourself? You actually ate it all at once. Speaking of this, Fisher Tiger's forehead shed cold sweat. Hody Jones didn't care at all about Fisher Tiger's words. Fisher Tiger, put away your hypocrisy and let us speak directly with our strength. As soon as he finished speaking, Hody Jones rushed towards Fisher Tiger. The speed is so fast that even the mermaid in the sea is not as fast as Hody Jones at this time. I'll go first. Jinbei on the side couldn't stand it anymore. Without saying a word, he jumped out from beside Fisher Tiger. 5,000-piece karate karate! Jinbei's race is a whale shark, and strength is Jinbei's strength. That fist, which was enough to destroy 5,000 tiles, fell directly on Hody Jones. Bang! When the two came into contact, the strong air pressure exploded in the air like a bomb. Before Jinbei could react, Hody Jones sneered. The fist full of veins was swung upward with force. Bursts of air explosions appeared at this time. Jinbei felt that his chin had endured an unprecedented force attack. It directly caused Jinbei's body to hurt, and then he fell heavily to the ground. It all happened so fast. Not even Fisher Tiger noticed what was going on. Between the lightning and flint, Hody Jones used only one move to completely defeat the sea hero Jinbei. This terrifying power made Fisher Tiger feel his heart tremble. Hody Jones spreads his hands. Looking at Jinbei falling in the distance, Hody Jones laughed out loud. Jaya ha ha ha, have you seen it? Have you seen it? This is the power that belongs to me. This powerful force, even the sea hero Jinbei, is no match for me. Are you right? Fisher Tiger. Fisher Tiger had a stern look on his face. The moment he was stared at by Hody Jones, he felt a powerful aura weighing on his heart. This feeling made him very uncomfortable. Hody Jones, this is not your power. You are overdrafting your body. Fisher Tiger added. Go to treatment immediately, maybe you can save a life. Once your body is completely exhausted, you really can't save it. Overdrawing my body? No, this is just the power hidden in my body. Fisher Tiger, are you afraid? By this time, Jinbei had already gotten up from the ground. He looked solemnly at Hody Jones in front of him, and said to Fisher Tiger, Captain, Hody Jones has gone crazy. He must be suppressed quickly, otherwise, it may cause a catastrophe. Hearing Jinbei's words, Fisher Tiger nodded heavily. Seeing Fisher Tiger and Jinbei preparing to join forces in front of him, Hody Jones didn't take it to heart at all. Come on, let's do it together. Even if we do it together, you are still no match for me. With that said, Hody Jones took more than 10 pills of ES poison, and he looked stronger. He was exuding the aura of a ferocious beast all the time, and his eyes were red. He looked like it makes people shudder. No more time can be given to Hody Jones to take medicine. They must join forces to defeat this man in front of them. Without any hesitation, Jinbei stepped forward. Samahata Palm Heel Strike! Jinbei was seen using the powerful strength of his feet to fly into the air. Immediately afterwards, he used his whole body's strength in the air to use the Samewai Shoken. He quickly fell from the air towards Hody Jones's position. At this time, Fisher Tiger also showed his unique skills. Loculent Karate Yukijai Buraken! Fisher Tiger condensed a water ball in his palm, and then threw it towards Hody Jones. This water droplet has very powerful power. It can easily pass through the human body, and can even penetrate Poseidons that are several times larger than mountains. It is a very terrifying secret skill. Facing the combined attack of Jinbei and Fisher Tiger, Hody Jones was not timid at all. He grinned, revealing his pale teeth, which looked quite scary. Come on, let me see how powerful you are! As soon as the words fell, Hody Jones' figure disappeared instantly. This is not shaving. Rather, it is pure physical strength that drives the body, allowing Hody Jones to move at high speeds. Arriving in front of Jinbei in an instant. Opening his palm, Hody Jones took the move directly. Loculent Karate Same! Laugh! Jinbei's palm was crushed in the hands of Hody Jones without any resistance. There is no way the hard hand bones can withstand the power of Hody Jones. Holding Jinbei's hand tightly, Hody Jones landed an over-the-shoulder throw. Bang! There was another loud noise, echoing in this deserted place. Intense pain shot straight into Jinbei's brain. After spitting out a large amount of blood, Jinbei fainted. Your turn, Fisher Tiger! Hody Jones casually smashed Fisher Tiger's volley into pieces. The relaxed and comfortable look shocked Fisher Tiger. How can it be? Fisher Tiger couldn't believe that Hody Jones, who had taken medicine, could be so powerful. How is that possible? Fisher Tiger, the real show is yet to come. Loculent Karate Umi Taiko! Hody Jones pumped his fist, compressing the moisture in the environment, and forming a high-density water droplet. This drop of water is as big as a fist, and it is filled with explosive power. Fisher Tiger, you'd better try it yourself to see what the true power of Fishman Karate is. This fist-sized drop of water, no. This can no longer be called a drop of water. It is a ball of water. The water mass was freezing in the air, roaring towards Fisher Tiger. Fisher Tiger couldn't escape. In desperation, Fisher Tiger could only subconsciously cross his hands to protect his chest. As the water mass arrived, Fisher Tiger only felt a chill enveloping him. Bang! The water mass carries strong rotational force. The moment it came into contact with Fisher Tiger's skin, a bloody flower began to bloom out of thin air. The water mass penetrated Fisher Tiger's body, making Fisher Tiger's body appear, a big hole that made people tremble with fear. Seeing that my own strength is already so strong. With a wave of his hand, he defeated Fisher Tiger and Jinbei, both of whom had great reputations on the sea. The extremely strong self-confidence made Hody Jones feel that he could easily defeat even the newly formed 4 emperors of New World. Looking at Fisher Tiger and Jinbei, who fell to the ground, Hody Jones opened his arms and said his crazy words. Fisher Tiger, Jinbei, although your strength is not very strong, far behind me, but if you are willing to surrender to me, agree with my ideas, and become my crew, then I can be very merciful. Save your lives otherwise. Fisher Tiger relied on his fishman physique to survive even if his chest was pierced. But the feeling of serious injury is obviously not that pleasant. Fisher Tiger could feel that his life was passing quickly. But even so, Fisher Tiger endured the pain and slowly got up from the ground. It is impossible to surrender to you. It's impossible to become your crew member. It is impossible to agree with your absolutely wrong ideas. Fisher Tiger stood up, covered his chest with his hands as hard as he could, grinned at the corner of his mouth, and refused fiercely. As Fisher Tiger spoke every word, Hody Jones clenched his fists. His blood-red eyes looked at Fisher Tiger coldly and said, "Are you done?" "I'm done, please go die." The figure of Hody Jones suddenly appeared in front of Fisher Tiger. The fist quickly enlarged in Fisher Tiger's field of vision. When he was about to hit Fisher Tiger in the face, Hody Jones suddenly stopped. The wind from the fist blew Fisher Tiger's hair. Suddenly he had an idea. Hody Jones retracted his fist and said to Fisher Tiger, "Instead of letting you die like this, I still think that I should let you witness the changes in Fishman Island with your own eyes and let you die in the most painful despair. Will be the best choice for you." With that said, Hody Jones gave Fisher Tiger a simple bandage. Then Jinbei was tied up with the strongest rope, and Jinbei's limbs were crushed at the same time, making Jinbei unable to untie the rope at all. After doing all this, Hody Jones took out the phone bug and ordered his men. "Start the plan." Inside the Dragon King's palace, Roja and the others are enjoying the joy of the banquet and the delicious food. But at this moment, a soldier hurriedly came to the banquet hall. The smile on Neptune's face disappeared for a moment, and he said in a calm voice, "What happened? Dragon King Palace has countless rules." Neptune was very angry at such rude soldiers. However, this soldier made a decision resolutely even though he knew there would be punishment, so we can only say that something really happened. Sure enough, the pale-faced soldier knelt directly in front of Neptune and reported to Neptune, "Your Majesty, it's bad. Hody Jones led the new Fishman pirates and countless human slaves to rebel." "Got it." Hearing these words, Neptune secretly thought something bad. Before Neptune could say anything, Roja looked at Neptune with a stern face and said to Neptune word by word, "Neptune, I need your explanation." This time, Roja didn't even use the honorific title, King. Neptune also knew that Roya was angry at this time. But Neptune is also a king after all, and he has his own way of dealing with this kind of thing. He comforted Roja a little, and then said to the soldier, "What exactly happened?" The soldier did not dare to hesitate and said quickly, "The specific matter has not been investigated yet. According to visual inspection, the new Fishman pirate group established by Hody Jones has about 1,000 fishmen and nearly 10,000 slaves. They are constantly destroying Fishman Island and saying they want to bring new life to Fishman Island. Also, the two bosses, Fisher Tiger and Jinbei, were defeated by Hody Jones, and the chest of Fisher Tiger was even pierced." Hearing the soldier's words, everyone around him took a deep breath. They knew the abilities of Fisher Tiger and Jinbei, but because of their understanding, they felt even more shocked after they were defeated by Hody Jones. Roja's thoughts came to mind countless possibilities in a short period of time. But whether it is with Fisher Tiger, the better mysterious person, or the general who was sent to invite Jinbei to join the Shichibukai plan, both can relate to Fisher Tiger and Jinbei. In other words, Hody Jones offended Roya. With a sigh, Roja stood up from his seat. "And Stella, let's go." "Yes." Roja and the two girls walked out of the banquet hall neatly and walked towards the chaotic streets. When he saw this scene, Neptune's eyes lit up, and he quickly said to Shark Star next to him, "Send troops immediately." Before Neptune could finish speaking, Roya's voice was heard coming from a distance. "Don't cause unnecessary casualties. Leave this matter to me." Roja's words were filled with incomparable confidence. Neptune also reacted immediately, but he was worried and led his ministers to follow Roja. At this time, Fishman Island was already in chaos. Countless murlocs, as well as slaves who have received orders, are causing chaos everywhere. These slaves were all obtained by Hody Jones. As a fish-human supremacist, his biggest hobby is this kind of thing. Any fishman who joins the new Fishman pirate group will gain supreme power. Let us overthrow Neptune together and establish ourselves as king. Hody Jones shouted the words from his mouth. He was surrounded by his supporters. At this time, Hody Jones looked at Jinbei and Fisher Tiger next to him and said, "Do you smell it? There is a wonderful smell in the air at this time. I will become the new king of Fishman Island soon. When the time comes, I will continue to fight and then completely rule the sea." Fisher Tiger held on to his strength, looked at Hody Jones next to him, and said, "Haha, you are worthy enough?" Hearing Fisher Tiger's rather disdainful words, Hody Jones only felt anger rising in his heart. "Jai ha ha ha, I will let you see with your own eyes how I did it. I just hope that your body can still hold on when I become emperor." As soon as Hody Jones finished speaking, he saw the three Rojas walking out of the Dragon King's palace. "Jai ha ha ha, it seems that the Dragon King Palace has received the news, but Neptune actually asked these three people to come forward to stop us. Do you really think that these three people can resist the scale of these 10,000 people?" If Hody Jones had known what happened to Krieg, he might not have said these words. With his powerful physical strength, Hody Jones came directly not far from Roja and said arrogantly, "Are you the General Baiga? Why should a dying person say so much?" Roya paid no attention to Hody Jones. Even under the gaze of Hody Jones, he slowly closed his eyes. Seeing Roya looking down on himself as a human being, Hody Jones only felt that he had been greatly insulted. Just when Hody Jones was ready to teach Roja a lesson, Roya opened his eyes. In an instant, Roja released the domineering spiritual pressure in his body that was like conqueror's. Buzz! The overwhelming, terrifying aura instantly spread from Roja's body to the front of the chaos. The wind suddenly rises. In the Fishman Island, dust was blowing all over the sky. This was the first time they had seen such an exaggerated hurricane. Everyone was stunned for a moment. This is not the end. Luo Yi's momentum is rising steadily, becoming as deep and terrifying as the sea. Conquerors swept across all directions, impacting the minds of those who created chaos. It only takes less than a second. Plop! 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 The sounds of falling to the ground one after another kept coming. They fell straight to the ground. If they didn't know, they would just faint. So just based on this picture, it can even be said that there are millions of corpses. On the ground were all motionless bodies. The atmosphere became extremely peaceful. Tens of thousands of slaves and thousands of fishmen, without exception. They were all struck by Roya's conqueror's haki and lost consciousness on the spot, fell to the ground, and fell into a coma. Among all the riders, only Hody Jones was not stunned by Roya's conqueror's dominance. I guess it's because the poison is still working today. A little confusion flashed in Hody Jones's eyes. He turned around and looked at the scene in front of him. I was extremely shocked. Is this the strength of a general? This is too terrifying. Hody Jones's expression changed, and he thought to himself, no matter how strong he is, so what? He's just a human being, and besides, he still has a trump card. Thinking of this, Hody Jones immediately took out handfuls of ES poison from his bag. The number of these vicious medicines alone has reached at least 300. Hody Jones took the poison directly in as if he were eating. Neptune arrived late with his ministers. When they saw the fallen people everywhere they looked, they were very shocked. But when they saw Hody Jones holding something in his hands, they were even more shocked. By Gu, this is ES's poisonous drug, a drug that can make people stronger. He has swallowed so much. If he had not died, he would have become. I saw it. You go rescue Jinbei and Fisher Tiger first. They are already seriously injured, and it will be more troublesome to delay it any longer. Yes, I'll make arrangements right away. At this time, Roya looked at Hody Jones. Hody Jones's body has doubled in size. Like a monster. The skin has been stretched to the point of being almost transparent. You can clearly see the blood flowing inside, and you can even faintly see the rapidly beating heart. Gives people a very uncomfortable feeling. Although the skin seems to have become transparent, its toughness has been greatly improved. Feeling the explosive power in his body, Hody Jones laughed out loud. Jaya ha 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 ha, you see, this is power, invincible power, no one can resist it. Hody Jones. Have you finished speaking? If you finish speaking, I will take action. Although Hody Jones took a lot of dangerous drugs, his brain was still relatively bright. He did not wait for Roja to take the lead, but rushed directly towards Roja. At this time, Hody Jones, who was nearly 4 meters tall, rushed towards Roja like a hill. However, compared to the Whitebeard 2 Weibel that Roja defeated before, it pales in comparison. Sighing, Roja said softly, "In the final analysis, your vision is still too narrow. The sea is not as simple as you think. The pinnacle of domineering power is activated." Roya directly predicted Hody Jones's offensive trajectory. I saw Roya's head, slightly dodging to the side, and dodged Hody Jones' attack. Marine 6 Styles Paper Painting. Luoya released all his strength, just like paper, drifting in the wind. Easily dodged Hody Jones's crazy attack. Hody Jones became more and more frightened as he fought. He has used all his strength. Speed and power reached unprecedented peaks. Punch quickly, even reaching the speed of hundreds of punches per second. But even so, he still didn't touch the corner of Roja's clothes. It's useless. I've predicted your next move in advance. Hearing Roya's words, Hody Jones retreated suddenly. Prediction? What if my speed is so fast that even if you predict it, you can't avoid it? Thinking of this, Hody Jones immediately started eating. As if he had completely given up his life, he swallowed all the ES poison into his stomach. Ah! It hurts! It hurts so much! But this feeling is power! Jahahahaha! You are finished, General Baigu! At this time, I have become even more powerful! Although the large amount of ES poison seriously overdrawn Hody Jones's life, it also gave him great strength and self-confidence. However, in this regard, Roja just said lightly, "Oh really, wait until you can take my blow, then you can say those big words again." As Roja's words fell, Roja jumped hard. Lan Jiao White Pigeon! This is a derivative skill of Lan Jiao named after Roja's own title. The moment Roya kicked out, Lan Jiao suddenly transformed into the shape of a white dove, looking very noble. As the pigeon spread its wings in the air, Lan Ji's speed suddenly increased. At this time, Hody Jones was almost doubting Yu Xing. He had obviously released so many poisons, but he still couldn't see clearly Roja's attack. Because the speed was so fast, he couldn't catch it with his naked eyes alone. His brain was working like crazy. But Lan Jiao's sharp edge has enveloped his body. The terrifying sense of oppression affected every cell in his body. At this time, every cell in Hody Jones's body was extremely sensitive. It's all filled with a lot of vicious medicine. At this time, the white dove spread its wings and exploded suddenly. Hi! Directly cut Hody Jones's body in half. Hody Jones can still feel the pain faintly. He looked at his body, which was divided into 2 halves. Horrified. Shocked. But irreversible. This Dalon kick is really too fast. It has completely exceeded the speed that Hody Jones can capture. Dark, senseless, silent. Eaten Hody Jones's brain. And his body, due to the interruption of blood, caused the drug's power to explode at this time. Just now it looked like a huge body. At this time, he suddenly turned into a skinny old man. TSK, is this the result of using dangerous drugs? It's really miserable. At this time, everyone who saw this scene in front of them was completely stunned. Hody Jones was killed by Roya in one move. This is too powerful. Is this the legendary Marine General? Can humans really be so powerful? It's incredible. If only I could reach this level. People around were whispering there. Ayn and Stella, standing behind Roja, also looked at Roja with admiration. The 2 women all thought to themselves, as expected of Master Luoya, He is really too strong, they must work harder to train themselves. There is absolutely no way to embarrass Roja. Then, they only saw the scene in front of them. Unlike Neptune, he also already suspected Yuxing at this time. King Neptune knows how powerful the poison is. An ordinary fishman can become the strongest soldier if he takes one pill. And Hody Jones ate hundreds of pills, but when facing Roya, he was still no match for Roya's move. How could Neptune not be surprised by this? Especially Roya, who was completely unscathed at this time and had not been touched by Hody Jones. Not only that, he stood there very relaxed, as if he had completed a very simple thing. Neptune knew before that General White Pigeon was very powerful. But they never imagined it. Neptune, liberate all these slaves, and then transport them to the nearby marine base. Is that okay? Don't worry, General Beige. I swear as the king of the Fishman Kingdom that I will definitely do this. Roya nodded. Then he added, have Fisher Tiger and Jean Bay started rescue operations? Well, it's just that Fisher Tiger's body is obviously not optimistic. Shall I go take a look? I am quite confident in my medical skills. When Roja and others came to Fisher Tiger who had fainted, there are already many people and fishmen around, who have woken up from their dizziness. Roya stood next to Fisher Tiger and looked at Fisher Tiger's situation at this time. His brows wrinkled slightly. King Neptune asked Roja, General White Dove, is there still hope? It's possible, but he just needs a blood transfusion. Blood transfusion? It's okay. I'll ask the soldiers to come over for blood transfusion. Roja shook his head slightly and said, No, your races are completely different. It's usually okay, but now, Fisher Tiger is seriously injured. If he really needs to use it, he will only die faster. In this situation, only able to use human blood. As Roja's words fell, the surrounding fishmen suddenly began to whisper. Using human blood to save the fishmen, isn't this a joke? How is this possible? He definitely wants to frame our fishman hero. Before, I didn't care about Fisher Tiger and Jean Bay, the crazy fish people doing odd jobs. At this time, he began to criticize Luoya verbally and writingly, as if he didn't trust Luoya at all. It can be said to be a very double standard. But Neptune is very open-minded. He said to Roja in a deep voice, General Baigu, are you sure? Confident. Then, Roja turned and looked at the human slaves. Of course, now they are free with the help of Roja. Roja looked at them and said, Do any of you volunteer to come over and give this fishman a blood transfusion? As Roja's words fell, the entire island fell silent. They had been treated as slaves by these fishmen before, and their lives were worse than death. Now, if they were asked to use their own blood to save the fishmen, they would never agree. Neptune's heart gradually sank. But at this moment, someone in the crowd suddenly said, I am willing. I support peace. If this move can bring us closer, then I am willing. As the words fell, everyone followed the voice and looked at the person who spoke. This man looks a little dark. But his eyes had an indescribable light. It was as if there was light inside. As the young man finished speaking, these words continued to ferment in the hearts of others. They raised their hands one after another. I do. If that's really the case, then I'm willing too. My wish is world peace. Neptune and the other fishmen stared blankly at the humans in front of them. They did not expect that these humans were really willing to put aside all prejudices and use their own blood to save the fishmen. This was something they never expected. The corners of Roja's mouth raised slightly, and he said, One person will never be enough to queue up. Fortunately, no matter what blood type he is, it is acceptable to Fisher Tiger, and he will not conflict with Roya's leadership. These people began to line up in an orderly manner and signed up enthusiastically. The dark-skinned young man who just spoke also smiled, and when no one was paying attention, he turned into a phantom and shattered. Yes, this is Roya's handiwork. Time flies. In about an hour, Fisher Tiger finally emerged from the brink of death. However, he was still seriously injured. If the big hole in his chest is not repaired and cured, Fisher Tiger may still be seriously injured and die. With the pinnacle of medical skills, he can indeed be cured, but it will take a long time and he must be observed by Fisher Tiger's side all the time. Roya doesn't have this time. Thinking of this, Roja made a decision. System, take out that poisonous medicine that has no side effects. Then Roja said to the system. A burst of light blue light flashed, and Roja took advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention. Fisher Tiger swallowed this poison. After Fisher Tiger swallowed it, the vicious medicine immediately began to take effect. Fisher Tiger's aura began to grow stronger. But because there are no side effects, it will not overdraw Fisher Tiger's life. On the contrary, it can provide Fisher Tiger with extremely powerful recovery capabilities. I saw that granules began to appear on Fisher Tiger's hollow chest. These granulations continued to grow, and finally slowly blocked the wound on Fisher Tiger's chest. When the people around them saw this scene, they just thought it was a miracle. This is too exaggerated. Is this a miracle? Perhaps humans, fishmen, and mermaids can really live in peace in the future. Can this effect be achieved using human blood? Hear the voices coming from these crowds. Roja smiled and said, Only the blood of voluntary humans can achieve this effect. Neptune was stunned when he heard Roja's words. He suddenly reacted. He suddenly realized, wasn't this done intentionally by Roja? Let humans and the people of Fishman Island coexist peacefully. There are really people who are willing to help them on this road. And he is also a white pigeon general. Thinking of this, tears suddenly shed from the corners of Neptune's eyes. He thought of his late Princess Odoheim, and was moved indescribably. Odoheim, if you saw this scene in front of you now, you would definitely be very happy. The 5 minutes for the medicine to take effect passed in the blink of an eye. Fisher Tiger is also out of serious injury. I saw him slowly opening his eyes and looking at the surrounding environment. Now, how is the situation now? Neptune was very pleased to see Fisher Tiger care so much about Fishman Island. Everything has been solved now. Neptune paused and said, And it was General Baigu who rescued you personally. White dove. Fisher Tiger repeated it, and when he reacted, his pupils shrank suddenly. I'm not here to find you, and the target is not you, but the sea hero Jinbei next to you. What do you want to do to Jinbei? Roya stopped Fisher Tiger, and tried to strengthen his heart. Neptune was behind and said quickly, Don't worry, it's a good thing, it's a good thing. Hearing his own king say the same thing, Fisher Tiger was finally relieved. After taking care of Jinbei's injury, Neptune immediately sent someone to take Fisher Tiger and Jinbei to the top medical room to rest. At the same time, he said to Roja, General Beige, don't worry, I agreed to Shichibukai's proposal on Jinbei's behalf. Roja nodded, and just when he was about to leave, Neptune hurriedly said, General White Pigeon, I actually have an unkind request here. Neptune added, If you can agree, you can come to me for anything I can help with in the future. What's the matter? Roja said calmly. A trace of resentment flashed in Neptune's eyes. I have a daughter named Shirahoshi, who looks sweet, but she was harassed by a guy named Vanderdecken 9. At first, this guy would send love letters to the Ryugu kingdom at most once a week, and then it got worse. The letter turned into a mail package, and in the end it even turned into a threatening proposal. There is no other way. I asked the 3 Poseidon brothers to lead the army to hunt down Vanderdecken 9. But even if he is wanted by the Ryugu kingdom, Vanderdecken 9 will still take weapons and attack the hard-shell tower where Shirahoshi is located. So I want to ask you to help me capture Vanderdecken 9. I will definitely not let this guy go. Neptune was a good and generous king, and he was very humble. But when it comes to this Vanderdecken 9, he grits his teeth. This shows how much Neptune hates this Vanderdecken 9. When Roja heard Neptune's complaint, he immediately thought of Shirahoshi's Poseidon ability. Shirahoshi is the mermaid princess and Poseidon, one of the 3 ancient weapons. These 2 identities, no matter which identity you take out, are very awesome. And it was such a being who was forced to live in a hard-shell tower by a guy named Vanderdecken 9. It can only show that Shirahoshi is so kind. Of course, there is also the reason why Neptune did not want Shirahoshi's identity to be exposed, which would cause a bigger disturbance. Your Majesty, where is the hard-shell tower? Hearing Roya's words, Neptune felt very excited. You agreed? Roja nodded and said calmly. Just think of it as finding a training partner for Ein. When he heard Roja suddenly calling his name, Ein was stunned for a moment. Lord Roja, shall I take action this time? Of course, after being out for such a long time, if there is no one to fight with, your hands will become rusty. Ein said seriously. Don't worry, Mr. Roja, I will definitely not let you down. When Neptune saw this scene, he felt that the white pigeon general in front of him was definitely the kind of person worthy of close friendship. Immediately Neptune said, White pigeon, I will take you there. With that said, Neptune personally led Roja and others to the hard-shell tower next to the Dragon King's palace. Just listen to the electronic sound of the system in Luoya's mind. Ding, check in the hard-shell tower and get the reward, 100% favorability of Shirahoshi. Hearing this reward from the system, Roja was stunned for a moment, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. What's wrong? Is there anything strange? Neptune obviously noticed the change in Roja's expression. Fine. Roja shook his head, but he slowly stretched out his hand and directly pulled out the blade from Ein's waist. Ein was stunned for a moment. I saw the great swordsman on Roja's body filled with peak aura, slashing from top to bottom. A huge slash appeared out of thin air and flew towards the sky. Just when everyone had not yet realized what was going on, a throwing object happened to appear within the range of the slashing strike. The slash immediately chopped this fish-like thing into pieces. Is this the power of that target fruit? Ein said next to him. It should be that this ability, from a certain perspective, is a very powerful ability, but this user is just a waste. Hearing Roja's words, the corner of Neptune's mouth twitched. If Vanderdecken 9 is a waste, then those of us, Sharkstar and others who did not bring Vanderdecken 9 to justice, are we not the waste among wastes? Of course, Neptune also knew that Roya's words were just unintentional words. Open the door. Neptune ordered to the watcher. Roja said at this time. I can go alone, no problem, Your Majesty the King. No problem. Received Neptune's approval. Roya walked into the hard-shell tower. As soon as he entered the hard-shell tower, Roja saw Shirahoshi, lying on the holy white bed, curled up slightly and looking very cute. Shirahoshi is sleeping soundly. She didn't know that someone else had broken into the hard-shell tower. It can be said that she was very bold and unrestrained at this time. Roja blushed a little when he saw it. He pretended to cough. The sudden sound suddenly woke Shirahoshi up. She quickly stood up and looked at Roja, while her delicate and pretty face was filled with countless rosy colors. Roja quickly calmed down and said to Shirahoshi, Princess, please introduce yourself. I am Beige, General Marine, and my name is Roja. Please give me your advice. My name is Shirahoshi, how did you get in? It was King Neptune who asked me to come in. Roja was very familiar with him, and came to Shirahoshi. Shirahoshi stretched out his palm and placed Roja in his palm naturally. For some reason, Shirahoshi just felt that the man named Roja in front of him was so attractive to him. The heartbeat couldn't help but speed up a lot. This was a feeling she had never experienced before after living in a hard-shell tower for a long time. Shirahoshi, your father has already told me the matter. I won't say any nonsense. I only want to ask you one thing. Do you yearn for a free life? Live freely. Shirahoshi was obviously stunned when he heard Roja's words. She subconsciously looked at the small window next to her. The light shone from the small window, and the warm feeling made Shirahoshi yearn for it. But she didn't dare leave the hard-shell tower. Because as soon as she left, many projectiles would appear in the air and fly towards her. If it weren't for the fact that she dodged faster, she might have been injured. I don't know how much time has passed in the hard-shell tower, and even Shirahoshi's perception of the outside world has become somewhat blurry. Tears welled up in Shirahoshi's eyes. For a moment, Shirahoshi felt that he had been wronged in every possible way. This grievance made Shirahoshi burst into tears. She had done nothing wrong, so why did something like this happen that kept her living in the hard-shell tower and unable to get out? Royal, I want to go out. I want to walk out of the hard-shell tower openly and experience that kind of free life. Shirahoshi shouted loudly. At the same time, tears welled up from his eyes. It's just that these tears are really a bit big compared to normal people. But thinking about it, Shirahoshi's body shape is relatively normal. Do you believe me? If you do, we can go out openly now. I don't know if it's because of the 100% favorability factor. Shirahoshi's trust in Roha was full from the beginning. Shirahoshi nodded vigorously and said to Roha, Well, Roha, I believe you. With that said, Shirahoshi swam out from the small space of the hardshell tower. When Neptune saw Shirahoshi coming out of the hardshell tower, he almost couldn't control his emotions. But after all, he had been a king for many years. Neptune took a deep breath and gained some control. Forcing himself to keep his voice calm, he said to Shirahoshi, Shirahoshi, believe Roha, he will definitely be able to defeat Vanderdyken 9. You will never have to live in a hard-shell tower again. Shirahoshi nodded vigorously. But at this moment, another throwing object flew from the distance. This throwing object was actually a throwing knife, with a letter stuck on it. Drawing an arc in the air, it flew towards Shirahoshi. Seeing this, Roha shouted softly, Ein! Yes, Lord Roha! As Roha finished speaking, Ein drew out his saber. He rose up from the ground with his blade horizontally, directly blocking the flying knife. The whole process went smoothly and seemed extremely easy. Remove the envelope from the flying knife. Roha slowly unfolded it. What comes to mind is a rather unbearable love letter. No, calling it a love letter is an eyesore. The fonts on it are crooked, as if they have just learned how to write. Shirahoshi, let's go! I want you to see this nightmare disappear with your own eyes. Roha planned to, in this way, eliminate the haze in Shirahoshi's heart. This bad memory will be completely gone through the death of Vanderdyken 9. Do I need to come over? The king has many things to do every day, so just leave this place to me. After getting Roha's answer, Neptune nodded. He believed Roha and others. Under the leadership of Shirahoshi, everyone moved towards the place where Vanderdyken 9 was. In fact, there is no need for Shirahoshi to lead this at all. Relying on the throwing objects and flying routes, Roha and others were able to find the figure of Vanderdyken 9. Sure enough, after about half an hour, Roha and others saw Vanderdyken 9 next to Noah's Ark in the forest of the sea. This was the first time Ein saw such a huge ship. The whole person's spirit was shaken. On the contrary, Roha, who was very interested, compared it with Noah's Ark in the system's space. The material and size should be the same. But the Noah's Ark in front of us is already in the depths of the sea. It has existed for too long, and its defense power can be said to have declined significantly. Shirahoshi's focus is entirely on Vanderdyken 9. She can't wait to regain her freedom. She wants to be free and swim in the sea, instead of living curled up in a small hard-shell tower. Contrary to what they thought, Vanderdyken 9 saw Shirahoshi coming in front of him. It can be said that he was not too excited at all. He said to Shirahoshi, Shirahoshi, have you finally agreed to my proposal? Without further ado, let's hold the wedding as soon as possible. Thinking that he would be able to control Poseidon and become the overlord of the world right away, Vanderdyken 9 felt a burning sensation in his heart. But after hearing what Vanderdyken 9 said, Shirahoshi immediately refused. Vanderdyken, I advise you to stop fantasizing about these things. I will never agree to your proposal. If you really want to get married alone, then I will give myself to Roha. Roya? At first, Vanderdyken 9 did not realize who Roha was. But when he looked at the man next to Shirahoshi, he felt bad. Would you rather marry a human than marry me? Vanderdyken 9 said viciously. After saying these words, Vanderdyken 9 said again, It doesn't matter, as long as I kill him, then you are still mine. Shirahoshi, it is a sin for such a person to exist in the world for just 1 second longer. It is best not to take care of him anymore. Roja did not take Vanderdecken 9 in his eyes at all. He just ordered to Ein next to him. Kill him! Yes, Lord Roja! I nodded vigorously, then took a step forward and said to Vanderdecken 9. Your opponent is me! After saying that, Ein rushed towards Vanderdecken 9. Because she knew that Roja didn't want to waste time on such a bastard. Humph, it seems that you are just a pretty boy who can hide behind women. Wait until I kill this woman, and then I will take care of you. Vanderdecken 9 obviously did not know Roya's identity. If he knew that Roya had just killed Hody Jones with just one move. When he met Roja, he must have run away without saying a word. It's just that in this world there are no ifs. Roja has not yet begun to teach Ein all aspects of swordsmanship. I just keep letting Ein lay the foundation there, and keep exercising my state of mind. At this time, Ein's state of mind had reached a very calm state. When facing Vanderdecken 9, there was no disturbance in his heart, and his whole person was in a state of absolute calmness. In this state, Ein's concentration has been greatly improved, and his combat effectiveness and reaction ability have also been slightly improved. Don't you know that the faster you run, the faster you die? Vanderdecken 9 showed a ferocious smile and ran towards Ein. Seeing this scene, Shirahoshi's heart suddenly tightened. Be careful, don't let him. Before Shirahoshi could finish speaking, he was stopped by Roya. Roja said to Shirahoshi with a serious expression. Shirahoshi, this is Ein's battle. She needs to guess the enemy's various abilities by herself and think independently on how to defeat him, so don't remind her for the time being. Shirahoshi nodded thoughtfully. She originally wanted to remind Ein not to be touched by Vanderdecken 9. Because once touched, Vanderdecken 9 will use the ability of the target fruit to hit the target 100%. At this time, Ein obviously didn't know this characteristic. She used her peak swordsman's will to the limit. The whole person's aura is like a sharp sword about to come out of the body. Its sharp edge is revealed. Ein held the sharp blade in his hand, reversed his wrist, and slashed out of the air, roaring towards Vanderdecken 9. However, Vanderdecken Ajax's fighting ability is not weak. Can dodged the slashing attack, and Vanderdecken 9 touched the corner of Ein's clothes. I saw Vanderdecken 9 showing a ferocious smile, and took out 8 flying knives from somewhere. 4 on each side. The flying knife was filled with poison and glowed with a green light, making people shudder. Ha ha! You are already dead now! I am a person with abilities that has been cursed by the target. All objects that I touch are targets that I can definitely hit. So, go to hell! As Vanderdecken 9 finished speaking, he threw the flying knife in his hand. 8 flying knives roared in the air. Once touched by the highly poisonous poison above, it will be absolutely painful. Ein frowned slightly. But the mood remains unchanged. Cut! Ein swung his sword again, and in this sword was the realization of the peak swordsman Ein. The majestic sword energy roared out. Strong air currents swept in all directions. A sharp slash cut through the sky in an instant, as if cutting the air into 2 halves. Stab! Wherever it passed, it stirred up a cloud of dust. When Luoya saw this scene, his eyes lit up and he said, Try to grasp this momentum and try to hit the realm of the great swordsman for the first time. Yes! Ein shouted back. But facing this sharp slash, these 8 flying knives were not affected by the airflow. Bang bang bang! The flying knife hit the slash and was immediately cut in half and fell to the ground. Good chance! Ein narrowed her beautiful eyes and said, Shave! I saw Ein's figure, and immediately came behind Vanderdecken 9. Fruit ability activate! Ein is not only a swordsman, but also a retrogressor who has eaten the fruits of retrogression. Any person or object touched by Ein can go back 12 years. Of course, with the continuous development of fruit abilities, there will be more and more time to go backwards. When it reaches its peak, even one thought can make people disappear. Vanderdecken 9 only felt that his body was shrinking continuously, and his clothes hung on his body, which looked quite weird. At this time, Ein's momentum has reached its peak. A brilliant light flashed in her eyes. Everything seemed to fall into place. During this period of time, the insights I gained from being around Roja were all integrated at this moment. Ain's aura suddenly increased tenfold. The overwhelming sword intent spread at this time. With Ain as the center, the wild wind blows the surrounding seaweed. Is this the first time you enter the realm of a great swordsman? Feeling the power in his body, Ain felt that the blood in his body was boiling completely. Horror. Shocking. Fear. Vanderdecken 9 looked at the scene in front of him, and his heart trembled with alarm. The atmosphere has become very strange now. It was obvious that they were evenly matched just now. Now in just a moment, something changed. His body, strength, and agility are all declining rapidly. As for the Ain in front of him, his strength has increased at least 10 times, making it impossible to fight him. A strong sense of death enveloped Vanderdecken 9, causing his heart to completely fall to the bottom. I saw Ain holding a sharp sword and waving the blade continuously. Every time he swings, there will be a dazzling and brilliant slash. Heading towards Vanderdecken 9. The momentum is like a rainbow. Every wave is equivalent to consolidating one's own realm. Boom! 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 The air is split. The ground is cracking. The wind is roaring. Under these fierce attacks was the almost desperate gaze of King Vanderdecken 9. It's not fair to be promoted in battle. Damn it, just with this momentum, you can imagine how powerful these slashes are. Damn it, there's no way to escape. Countless thoughts flashed through the mind of King Vanderdecken 9 at this time. Finally, he came to a conclusion: he must die. Damn it, if I want to die, you won't be able to live, just die. Before the attack arrived, Vanderdecken 9 touched the Noah's Ark next to him. The fruit ability activates. Noah's Ark was like a ferocious beast awakening. Countless seawaters surged and began to float. Then, mixed with the turbulent and unsolvable momentum, it crashed towards Ain. At this time, dozens of slashes had taken away the life of Vanderdecken 9. But now, they have a greater crisis. Looking at the huge hull of Noah's Ark, Ain swallowed subconsciously, and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. She could already imagine how much damage it would cause when such a huge Noah's Ark fell rapidly from the sky. Maybe, the entire Fishman Island will be completely destroyed because of this. For fish people and mermaids, there may be nothing in the 10,000-meter deep sea. But for humans, this is a disaster. Especially for people with abilities like them, it is absolutely impossible to survive in the sea. Something must be done. Ain, who had been promoted to the level of a great swordsman for the first time, could no longer be happy. She took a deep breath with a solemn expression. She was already planning to make a desperate move. If you sacrifice yourself, this Noah's Ark might stop. But at this moment, Roja came to Ain's side without knowing when. He gently placed his hand on Ain's fragrant shoulder. The warm palm immediately gave Ain spiritual strength. Ain looked at Roja. His vision was filled with Roja's majestic voice, and he only heard her whisper, "Lord Roja, you have done a good job, now leave it to me." Roja's tone did not change, as if Noah's Ark was not enough for Roja to take it to heart. But Ain is obviously very aware of the dangers involved. But this is an order." Roja turned around, looked at Noah's Ark, which was landing faster and faster, and said calmly, "Besides, it's just a Noah's Ark." In Fishman Island, just after a chaotic battle, it finally calmed down. Just as they were preparing to clean up after the war and repair the damaged things, they suddenly saw Noah's Ark gradually rising into the sky. 1 passed to 10, 10 to 100. In just a short moment, everyone stood there, looking at Noah's Ark in front of them with pale faces. "Look there! What is that? Is this a ship? It's too big. Is this Noah's Ark? Why does it rise? Could it be the ability of Vanderdecken 9? Is he planning to destroy Fishman Island? Madman! Madman! It's over, it's completely over now." Countless people looked at Noah's Ark in front of them with fear. Looking at Noah's Ark, it kept zooming in their field of vision. Their bodies became extremely stiff due to tension, to the point where they were completely unable to move. As the king, Neptune obviously saw this scene before him. His heart kept sinking, and it could even be said that he had fallen into the abyss. All he can hope for is that Roja can save everything. White dove! Neptune held his hand tightly, his expression full of complexity. I kept praying in my heart, nothing will happen. Just when everyone felt despair in their hearts, I saw a white gas rising from underneath Noah's Ark. The gas continued to rise and spread, and then suddenly turned into substance. These gases condensed together and turned into a head, arms, torso, legs, armor, and wings on the back. The transparent feeling of white makes people feel extremely holy. But the posture of standing upright like the sky makes people's hearts freeze. What is this? It can't be some other monster, it's going to wreak havoc on Fishman Island. If this is really the case, then Fishman Island is really over. Just when everyone didn't know what was going on, Roja, who was under Noah's Ark, only said, Phantom fruit Susanoo white dove! Armed color entanglement! Any skill that is named white dove can be said to be Roja, the most powerful skill nowadays. The powerful white Susanoo was covered with a layer of armed hockey under Roja's control. When the armed domineering energy is entangled in a large area, the power that can be unleashed is extremely terrifying. Roja was seen standing in the middle of Susanoo's forehead with his arms folded, controlling Susanoo to jump up from the ground, arriving right underneath Noah's Ark. Finger gun 10 fingers Huang Lian! Susanoo raised his arms, both hands condensed with powerful strength. As his hands continued to thrust out, any Noah's Ark touched by Susanoo was like tofu, directly broken into dregs. It was only then that the people in the square finally reacted. Is this the power of General White Pigeon? This is too scary. This is the most powerful force I have ever seen. With General Baigu here, we will be fine. When they saw Roja's ability, they felt a lot more at ease. King Neptune looked in front of him and made a decision in his heart. At this time, Roya was like Luffy from the future, displaying a rubber machine gun and waving his hands continuously. It's like a super powerful blender, beating Noah's Ark into pieces. Ain's eyes sparkled. Master Luoya, you are so strong! Noah's Ark is so huge that even if 2 minutes have passed, Roja has not finished destroying the bow. As long as this Noah's Ark does not touch Ain, it will not stop. Although many thoughts flashed through Roja's mind now, he still chose the most deterrent method. Roja suddenly retreated, took a deep breath, and then clenched his hands into fists. Return of life, the biggest wheel, 6 king's spears! As Roja's words fell, a huge shock wave was generated in Susanoo's hands controlled by Roja. As Roja released the shock wave, a fierce and unstoppable force burst out of the air. The huge shock wave easily penetrated Noah's Ark. Where the sound wave started, Noah's Ark suddenly broke apart. All resistance disappeared out of thin air, and what replaced it was sawdust flying like a furious wave. If you look down from above, you will see that there is no obstruction at all wherever this terrifying shock wave passes. In just a moment, Noah's Ark, silent in the deep sea, was completely destroyed in Roja's hands. Ding! The ancient Noah's Ark has been completely destroyed by the host. As promised, it will be inherited by the host. Release the task, let the fish and the mermaid live freely in the mainland. After completion, the reward, the 3 ancient weapons 1, Uranus. As the electronic sound of the system fell, Roja was stunned for a moment. Uranus. After completing this task, the system will actually reward Uranus. You know, the 3 major weapons in ancient times were Pluton, Poseidon, and Uranus. Pluton's design drawings should be in Tom's hands now. Moreover, there is also ancient history in the Alabasta Desert, which can be solved by Robin or Alvia when the time comes. Poseidon is Shirahoshi next to him. His favorability towards him has reached 100%. It can be said that he also controls Poseidon. Pluton, Poseidon, and Roja are all equivalent to being obtained. Only Uranus is more miserable. But now, the reward of Uranus appears in the system, how can Roja not be excited? At the same time. Mermaid Cafe. A mermaid with short black hair, cold blue eyes, pale skin, purple nails, wearing a hooded top, smoking a pipe in his hand, was looking at the crystal ball in front of him with a shocked expression. This crystal ball still shows the scene of Fishman Island being about to be destroyed. How is that possible? Didn't the White Dove already destroy Noah's Ark? Why on earth did it destroy Fishman Island? Shirley is the owner of this mermaid cafe and a fortune teller. Moreover, it is very famous on Fishman Island, and the accuracy of divination predictions is as high as 100%. She was in a state of turmoil just now, always feeling that something big was about to happen. So I used a crystal ball to make a prediction. Then, she saw the destruction of Fishman Island from the crystal ball. Just at this time, Noah's Ark appeared, making Shirley think that it was Noah's Ark that destroyed the Fishman Island. But the appearance of the white pigeon saved the crisis on Fishman Island and made her feel relieved. However, it is now predicted again that Fishman Island will still be destroyed, which makes Shirley's heart completely sink to the bottom. She had to tell Neptune herself. Thinking of this, Shirley immediately set off and swam in the direction of Neptune. At this time Neptune came to Roya's position. Roja put away his armament, hockey, and the ability of the phantom fruit. It slowly fell from the sky. By G, thank you for your hard work this time. Not only did you save Shirahoshi, but you also saved Fishman Island. When Neptune said this, he paused and turned to look at Shirahoshi aside. Shirahoshi, what do you think of General White Pigeon? Do you like him? Shirahoshi was stunned for a moment when he heard Neptune's words, and then his delicate face became rosy. Not to mention the 100% favorability rating, even if it wasn't there, Shirahoshi still had a lot of affection for Roja. Because it was the person in front of her who completely rescued her from the cage of restraint. Shirahoshi lowered his head, looking a little shy. I like Roja very much. When Shirahoshi said this, he lowered his head shyly, looking extremely shy. After Neptune received Shirahoshi's answer, he said to Roja, General White Pigeon, your help to Fishman Island this time is really great. I think no matter what kind of reward it is, it will be worth it. It's hard to express our gratitude to you. How about this? Since my daughter likes you very much, how about we make an engagement again? As soon as the words fell, the shark stars, emperor stars, and car stars around Neptune were all shocked in their hearts. They looked at Roya with serious expressions. Hein, who was next to Roja, and Stella, who had just come with Neptune, were also very shocked. You know, Shirahoshi is the princess of Fishman Island. I didn't say anything about my identity or appearance, just. Hein didn't know why, but he always felt a little sour in his heart. It was as if one's own things had been snatched away. Even Hein's state of mind has improved. At this time, I was a little unable to control myself. Your Majesty, I'm afraid there's something wrong with this. Although Princess Shirahoshi has the beauty of a fish or a goose, her body's shape. Neptune was not angry at Hein's question, because he knew that the Hein in front of him was not an ordinary lieutenant, but Roya's apprentice. There is no need to worry about this. After a female mermaid reaches adulthood, she can freely control the size of her body, and her tail will split into 2 legs. If she is combined with a human, the child she will give birth to will also be a human being, and at most they will be very good at water. After listening to Neptune's explanation, Hein stopped saying anything. At this time, Roja was listening to Neptune as if he was crazily selling his own daughter. I just feel a little dumbfounded. Sensing Shirahoshi's expectant gaze, Roja smiled and said, Your Majesty, I have no objection to the engagement, but Shirahoshi just came out of the hardshell tower. Might it seem a little too hasty? No, I don't feel anxious. Shirahoshi heard Roja's words and immediately replied to Roja. His anxious look surprised everyone around him. Afterwards, everyone burst into laughter. Listening to Shirahoshi, he became an ostrich again and looked very cute. Neptune laughed out loud. Ha ha ha, by G, it seems Shirahoshi can't wait any longer. Why don't you just agree? Luoya was naturally very happy when he saw Shirahoshi looking so cute. But at this moment, Shirley ran over. As soon as he saw Neptune, Shirley shouted, "Your Majesty, this is bad, something bad is going to happen." When Neptune heard this, his expression suddenly changed. Fishman Island is only that big, so Neptune naturally knows Shirley. Especially the divination results were 100% accurate, making Neptune dare not restrain him. So what happened? Neptune felt a deep sense of bitterness in his heart. Why is Fishman Island so full of disasters? Thinking of this, Neptune looked at Baigu next to him and thought to himself, fortunately, General Baigu is here. With General Baiji's strength, no matter what kind of disaster it is, he should be able to survive it safely. Roja looked at Shirley and frowned slightly. Without any hesitation, Luo Adam immediately released his peak domineering power. He could foresee what was going to happen 5 minutes later. The moment he activated his ability, Roja's face suddenly turned pale. What did he see? A Poseidon type that is absolutely over 10,000 meters in size surrounds Fishman Island, and may burst the bubble barrier of Fishman Island at any time. At this time, Shirley also came to Neptune and said to Neptune, "My lord, the Fishman Island is about to be destroyed." Shirley took a deep breath and said again, "In my divination, Fishman Island was about to be destroyed. I thought it was a crisis caused by Noah's Ark, but now that the crisis has been lifted, the divination result has not changed. Then can you predict the accurate time?" Shirley faced Neptune and shook his head in despair. She is extremely confident in her results. But in terms of time, it is indeed impossible to predict. As for the time, it will be in about 5 minutes. Roja looked up to the sky and murmured to himself. Neptune did not ask Roja how he knew. At Baiji's level, Neptune felt that Baigu would not joke around in this situation. White Pigeon, what on earth is it that will destroy Fishman Island? Is there anything you can do? If I read it correctly, it is a sea dragon type Poseidon that is definitely over 10,000 meters long. As Roja's words fell, the pupils of everyone present shrank suddenly. As if to verify Roja's words. Outside the Fishman Island, a terrifying figure squeezed through the waves and came into view. When Shirley saw the 10,000-meter-long sea dragon appearing outside Fishman Island, she collapsed directly on the ground, her face extremely pale. There is no time. Fishman Island will really disappear from history this time. Shirley's prediction accuracy has reached 100%. No one can violate what she predicted, so because of this, everyone feels very desperate. The atmosphere of despair and panic filled the air at this time. Roja did not hesitate and immediately released a layer of phantom over the Fishman Island. Except for Luoya and others, no one else could see Hai Long's figure. Neptune looked at Roja and said solemnly, "This is... If ordinary people see this scene, there will probably be even more riots. Now we just need to think about how to break this situation." Hai Long's whole body exuded astonishing power. The scales glowed with a cold light, and his eyes glared, looking calm and intimidating. It seems to be observing the weak points of Fishman Island in order to launch a fatal blow. My divination results are 100% accurate. It is absolutely impossible for us to resist the attack of this 10,000-meter sea dragon. Shirley was beside him and said to everyone with a pale face. Roja frowned slightly, turned to look at Shirley who was slumped on the ground, and said, "So what if the accuracy rate is 100%? With me here, this accuracy rate is not valid. The surrounding atmosphere has begun to gradually become stagnant." The expressions on everyone's faces were all serious. Facing the 10,000-meter sea dragon outside the Fishman Island, no matter how they thought, they could not think of a way to resist the sea dragon. Shirley and others only felt enveloped in despair. But the ordinary people in the Fishman Island square were celebrating enthusiastically that the crisis was finally over. What they don't know is that behind the phantom in the sky is the terrifying Poseidon that has never appeared before. A sea dragon-type Poseidon that is 10,000 meters long. The biggest crisis in the history of Fishman Island came quietly at this time. At this moment, Shirahoshi, who had been silent next to him, suddenly spoke. "Well, do you want me to give it a try?" When Neptune heard Shirahoshi's words, his expression suddenly changed and he said, "Shirahoshi, please stop making trouble, okay? Do you know what the situation is now?" Neptune obviously didn't want Shirahoshi's identity exposed. The white dove didn't matter. Neptune felt that he was very accurate in judging people. But Ayn and Stella are different. Neptune didn't know much about these two people at all. If they let the two of them leak Shirahoshi's identity, it would really be a waste. But when Neptune's words fell in Shirahoshi's ears, Shirahoshi frowned slightly. She said to Neptune, "Father, we don't have much time left now, let me try it. It has reached this point, even if it is exposed, it doesn't matter." Seeing that Shirahoshi had made up his mind, Neptune opened his mouth, but said nothing more. Roha obviously noticed Shirahoshi's thoughts, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly, and a very gentle smile hung on the corners of Roha's lips. In this atmosphere full of despair, it does seem a bit out of place. Ayn, take Stella back to the Dragon Palace. Neptune glanced at the white dove in surprise, but he quickly reacted. He also said to the three brothers Shark Star, Emperor Star, and Rolling Star behind him, "You and Adjutant Ayn, go back together." But nothing is wrong, this is an order. Roya and Neptune are creating a better environment for Shirahoshi. Ayn and Stella, although they don't know why Roha would do this, but Roha must have his reasons. Ayn and Stella both believed in Roha 100%. Without any hesitation, they quickly moved towards the Dragon Palace. There were only Roya, Neptune, Shirahoshi, and Shirley. Let Shirley stay here mainly because of her divination skills. Shirahoshi glanced at Roya and Neptune, nodded slightly, and then slowly swam towards the 10,000-meter sea dragon. Shirahoshi didn't get too close, and then used his ability to communicate with Poseidons to try to communicate with this sea dragon. "Hello?" Roar. Before Shirahoshi could say anything, he saw this 10,000-meter sea dragon roaring. The sound was rolling, like the arrival of evil spirits. At this time, even the people in the square heard this terrible sound. What the hell happened? This sound is so scary. Mom, I'm afraid. Just when the people were panicking, 3 mermaid princes, Shark Star, Car Star, and Emperor Star, appeared in front of the people. "Everyone, don't panic, this is just a little trick made by the king. Yes, you can take a look at the sky above. Isn't it still very beautiful?" After hearing the words of the princes, the hearts of these people slowly calmed down. When they saw these princes, they didn't feel panic at all, so they felt that it was not a big deal. As for gadgets, there are no gadgets. There is only one sea dragon, Poseidon, with a body length of 10,000 meters. Shirahoshi, it refuses to communicate with you. Like this Poseidon, it's better to defeat it. Hai Long seemed to have heard what Roya said, and immediately shouted at Roha. "You say I'm weak? How will you know if you don't try?" Luoya used all things to communicate and said to the Dragon King. This was Roya's operation, which stunned both Shirahoshi and Neptune. Shirahoshi even subconsciously said to Roha, "Roha, can you communicate with Poseidons?" As Shirahoshi's words fell, Neptune's pupils shrank suddenly. He couldn't react for a while. Isn't it Shirahoshi who is Poseidon? Why is there another person who can communicate with the Poseidon class? And it's still human? It's just a small thing. At this moment, Halong suddenly let out a roar and hit the outermost bubble of Fishman Island. The strong tenacity of the bubble caused the sea dragon to bounce slightly, but it did not break through immediately. It can be seen that in the deep sea, the bubbles on Fishman Island are still very resilient. However, Hai Long's action also put unprecedented pressure on Neptune. He is the king of Fishman Island, and he will never allow Fishman Island to be destroyed in front of his eyes. Thinking of this, Neptune turned to look at Roha and said to Roha, "General White Pigeon, is there anything you can do here?" After all, Neptune heard it just now. Roya said it was just a trivial matter. If it is a trivial matter, then General Baiga must have a solution. After hearing Neptune's words, Roa Adam immediately said to Neptune, "Yes, there is, but it may be a bit dangerous." Danger? Shirahoshi was very worried when he heard Roha's words. In just a short moment, some hot tears filled the eyes. Don't worry, I am still somewhat confident in my own strength. Boom! At this time, Hai Long once again bumped into the bubble on Fishman Island. This loud noise seemed to hit everyone's hearts. This made Neptune's face even more ugly. Roha also put away his smile and said to everyone, "It's just that I hope that what you see next will not be told to others." After hearing what Roha said, Neptune immediately patted his chest and said, "Don't worry, Baiga, we are going to become in-laws soon. No matter what it is, we will never leak it." Shirahoshi also nodded vigorously. She now regards Roha as her future significant other. In her pure heart, Roha is the most important person to her. After receiving their answers, Roha nodded, and then took a deep breath, and the white breath gradually wrapped around him. Susanoo White Pigeon. I saw a pair of beautiful-looking white wings spread out on the back of the white giant. The white wings flapped vigorously, directly driving Roha to fly towards the outside of the Fishman Island. When they saw Roha's move, everyone was completely stunned. "General Baiga, what are you planning to do? Is he planning to go out and fight this 10,000-meter sea dragon in the deep sea?" "No, Roha. Come back quickly." No one present felt that Roha could do such a thing. You must know that Roha is a person with abilities. Once he enters the sea, the curse deep in his soul will cause Roha to directly lose his power. Even if you don't talk about ability users, just the sea pressure under 10,000 meters is not something that others can bear. It is a terrifying pressure that will definitely crush ordinary people into mincemeat. Faced with such a harsh environment, Roha chose the most dangerous method. This makes Neptune and Shirahoshi not surprised. Shirahoshi's tears, at this moment, finally fell uncontrollably from the corners of his eyes. "Royal, if you can't come back, then I won't live alone. You gave me my freedom. If you are gone, then what is the use of my freedom?" When Neptune heard Shirahoshi's words, the corner of his mouth showed a little bitterness. He only hopes that Roha can really succeed. If Roha fails, it will really be a disaster for Fishman Island. Shirley saw Roya's determination. My heart shuddered. She suddenly discovered that with this determination, even her 100% accurate divination rate no longer seemed so scary. Just listen to Shirley slumped on the ground and murmured, "Maybe Roha's existence can really reverse what is happening now." Roha crossed his arms, controlled the Susanoo created from the phantom fruit, and headed towards the deep sea. This is why he wants Ain and Stella to leave. Not only because of Shirahoshi, but also because of Poseidon. What's more, from the beginning, Roha planned to use this method to subdue the sea dragon in front of him. That's right, it's about conquering. From the moment Hai Long appeared, Luoya fell in love with this Hai Long. You know, Poseidons that can reach over 10,000 meters only appear in legends. In reality, not many people can witness it with their own eyes. Most of the people who witnessed it were already dead. It is such a kind of Poseidon. If it can be conquered by oneself, what a cool thing it would be! A little excitement flashed in Roha's eyes. He flapped his wings hard again, and the wings behind him stirred up a strong wind. Roha's body emerged directly from the bubble in the Fishman Island. The strong seawater pressure pressed on Roha's body in all directions. Fortunately, the fruit eaten by Luoya did not have any side effects. So even in the sea, Roha can still use his abilities. Susanoo, who created the phantom fruit, was wrapped with armed haki to resist the pressure under 10,000 meters of sea water, and at the same time, he could hold Roha's breath. Because of the sea water, everyone was squeezed out. Between the two, one can be said to be indispensable. "Hey," I said, "if I defeat you, you can be my mount." Luoya used all things to communicate and said to Hai Long. But this obviously stimulated Hai Long. I think he is the ultimate overlord in the deep sea. The body is 10,000 meters long. If it's vertical, you can even reach the sea directly from Fishman Island. It was such an existence, but Roha told him that he wanted to take it as a mount. His pride will never be allowed. Ho ho ho. Through the communication of all things, Luoya knew what Hai Long's answer was. "You said it's impossible for me to defeat you? Then let's try." After the words fell, Luoya stopped talking. Controlling the huge Susanoo, he rushed towards Hai Long. Although he said he was rushing away, Roha actually wanted to stay as far away from the Fishman Island as possible. He didn't want the aftermath of the battle to spread to Fishman Island due to his own reasons, thus causing the destruction of Fishman Island. Roar! Hai Long roared. After the translation through all things communication, Luoya knew that Hai Long was saying, "Boy, don't run." Under the 10,000-meter deep sea, Roha relied on the powerful power of Susanoo and the peak of armament hockey. He just squeezed out a passage from the deep sea. If people see this scene in front of them, they will definitely be shocked. Because those with abilities who eat the fruit can actually swim freely in the sea. I think it will be directly targeted by the whole world. Therefore, Roha should be a little more careful about this. Fighting in the deep sea is such a waste of energy. Boy, what's wrong? Don't run away? Hearing the roars of the sea dragon, Roha crossed his arms and looked at the Susanoo created by the phantom fruit, and said with a smile, Don't run away, because the distance is enough now. Enough? Before Hai Long could react, Roha began to sing. The thundering carriage, the gap of the spinning wheel, this thing has lights clustered and divided into 6. Bakudo number 61. 6 staffs of light prison. As Roha's words fell. In the dark deep sea, a huge piece of light suddenly appeared. This huge piece of light suddenly blocked Hai Long's movements. This is not over yet,